So I've got 3 copies of the Act of Algeciras. One is in the the original format, which the translation for it was kind of strange. Then we've got the English translation, and this one that we're looking at right here is the English. This one is the English translation. This is the one we'll be going over, but it doesn't have. It's not. It doesn't fully. It doesn't. Roseville's proclamation is not on there. It's not completely on there. For some reason, it's been cut off. I'm not sure. So this copy that I have is the English and French version, or the French and English version. As we know, the two languages of international law is English and French, and that's the reason why this document is in English and French. But we'll be going over Roosevelt's proclamation. Let's see what that old president had to say in regards to signing on to the Act of Algeciras. So it says, excuse me, and whereas the said General Act, an additional protocol, so the Act of Algeciras, you got the 7 chapters, 6 of which are the meat and potatoes of it. We'll go through that, and then the 7th chapter is the general provisions, which gives you the instructions on ratification and depository for the treaty. But then you also have additional protocols. The additional protocols is because the Sultan of Morocco didn't sign the original document, so they entrusted the Pope, His Majesty, what they call him. We'll go over his name. His Majesty, the Pope. He had to communicate with the Sultan to find out about the signatures. That's why. In fact, let's go up real quick. You see both languages on. You see, it says additional protocols. So this is the original protocols right here. That article, because there's 123 articles. The last article is, and last, all treaties, conventions, and arrangements of the signatory powers with Morocco remain in force. It is understood, however, that in case of conflict between their provisions and those of the present General Act, the stipulations of the latter shall prevail. So the stipulations of the Act of Algeciras shall prevail. That was the original protocols. But you see here, these are the signatory powers: Germany, Austria, Hungary, Belgium. You see, they all have their signatures and their seals affixed to it. Joseph, Radowitz, etc. Spain, United States of America, France. But when you look at Morocco, there's no signature. You guys can see this? Can you all see this very pretty clearly? Let me see if I this up a little bit. Yeah, okay, good. So you see Morocco, non-existent. So they sent the Pope out in the additional protocols. Here's the additional protocols. On the point of signing the General Act of the Conference of Algeciras, the delegates of Germany, Austria, Hungary, Belgium, Spain, the United States of America, France, Great Britain, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Russia, and Sweden, taking into account the declaration of the delegates of Morocco that they were not, for the present, in position to affix their signatures thereto, they being unable, owing to the distance, to receive an early reply from His Sharifian Majesty concerning the points in regard to which they deemed it their duty to refer to him, right? Reciprocally engaged by virtue of their respective full powers to unite their efforts. Could you also, can someone mute their mic, please? Their efforts towards the ratification of the General Act in its entirety by His Sharifian Majesty, and towards the stipulation, simultaneous enforcement of the reforms therein provided, which are interdependent, right? So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's telling you that the Sultan hadn't signed, and so they sent off the what is his name? how do they refer to the Pope? His Catholic Majesty. There you go, right here. So his Catholic Majesty is who communicated with the Sultan to verify his signature. Well, he asked them, well, did everyone else sign? Did the United States sign? Everyone did. So he said, okay, good. My word is my bond. Roll with it. And if you see here, Morocco still didn't sign again. So it was by the decree of his verbal decree. That's how powerful we are. Because remember, the Sultan is no longer in existence. Who is the Sultan now that has taken over the Sultan? The people, through the enactment of their states, by putting together, they were really the enactment of their constitution, which establishes the state. So the people and the states is now the Sultan, right? So all the power that the Sultan once had has been transferred over to the states. Since he reduced himself to become the king of the Kingdom of Morocco in 1956. So what he did was he left the lane wide open for a fast break for our Moroccan state governments to put up an easy layup, right? But it hasn't been easy. Why? Why hasn't it been easy? Because we hadn't known about this. Why haven't we known about this? Because we have been kept in the dark. By whom? Our own, right? Our own people, including those who are wearing fezzes, specifically those who are wearing fezzes. If there's any Asiatic in Morocco that would know about the treaties, it would be Moors. It would never be a NAPCA or a NBC, Negro, Black, and Colored. It would be a Moor. And if it is an NBC, it would be a high-level NBC, like Sharpton and the likes. But when you're talking about law, you're talking about Moors. And if the Moors didn't tell us about this all these years, then guess who's complicit in keeping us blind to these treaties? Moors, who are wearing fezzes, who are coming out of the temple. One in particular, we've already identified, the Moorish American Society of Philadelphia. They are the biggest sellouts. They are the bigger conversos. So Roosevelt has something to say in his proclamation in regards to the Act of Algeciras. What did he say? Well, let's go through it. And whereas the said General Act and additional protocols were signed by the plenipotentiaries of the United States of America under reservation of the following declaration. So we're talking about the United States of America. Why? Because that's how they operate internationally. They utilize the name United States of America. And why do they do that? Because that was the signatory power. That was the actual name on the contract. But internally, we know that they have already usurped the United States of America in 1871. So you'll see both terms being used in this proclamation. Quote, the government of the United States of America, having no political interest in Morocco and no desire or purpose having animated it to take part in this conference, other than to secure for all peoples the widest equality of trade and privilege with Morocco, right? Equality of trade and privilege. All the signatory powers were looking for equality of trade and privilege with Morocco, and to facilitate the institution of reforms in that country, tending to ensure complete cordiality of intercourse without and stability of administration within for the common good, declares that in acquiescing, see, they acquiesced, in acquiescing in the regulations and declarations of the conference. They have acquiesced to the regulations and declarations of the conference. What conference? The Act of Algeciras. In becoming a signatory to the General Act of Algeciras and to the additional protocol, subject to what? Ratification. According to what? Constitutional procedures. This is what's in the provisions. And not just from the Act of Algeciras, even from the Vienna Convention and all the other documents coming out of the United Nations. This is the language they use. They must ratify whichever convention or treaty or agreement according to the constitutional procedures of their state. And what is that constitutional procedure? We'll get into that real quick in a second. He knows I'm on the call. Okay, where was it? Where were we? Subject to ratification in accordance with constitutional procedures, and in accepting the application of those regulations and declarations to American citizens, and interest in Morocco. It does so without assuming obligation or responsibility for the enforcement thereof. That right there is what okay, so let's explain this right here. In fact, let's go back up. So they said that the government of the United States of America have no political interest in Morocco. What does that mean? Can anyone tell me what they think that means?
That means they can't get involved in Moroccan politics or Moroccan
Islam. Islam. That's exactly what that means. That's exactly. Thank you, sister. Yes, this is what I mean. And like put it on the Telegram for everyone, and I'm still getting calls and questions. Do we have a meeting? It's in the Telegram. Hold on one second. Let me. What do we have the Telegram? If you're not using the Telegram, you got to keep calling me for this. It's in the Telegram. Cara, you're out. Thank you so much for that excellent answer. They don't have any. They don't have no say in what's going on in Morocco. That's what that's saying. I asked you all, what do you think that means? Because initially, I had no idea what it meant. So I had to ask Jay Bay. And what did he tell me? Exactly what Sister Makara said. Sister Makara, maybe you be teaching a class. All right? Real talk. Because I thought they were trying to say something else.
And well, then, in a lot of their documents, that could be the case. So we have to read these with a fine-tooth comb.
Mm-hmm. With the proper discernment. Mm-hmm. So that brings me to the last paragraph, the last sentence of that paragraph, in which it says it does that the United States of America, or declarations of American citizens and interests in Morocco, it does so without assuming obligation or responsibility for the enforcement thereof. What do you think that means, Sister Makara?
That means because they're just looking for economics, and mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about. They're just interested in the privileges and the economics.
Mm-hmm. They are, and that's not exactly what that's saying. However, so if
okay, you go what part was that?
Oh, let me look at the end of the sentence, the paragraph, so I can for the sentence. Where is the end? Okay, so it says, let's start here. In acquiescing in the regulations and declarations of the conference, in becoming a signatory to the General Act of Algeciras and to the additional protocol, subject to ratification according, right here, this is the key word, subject to ratification according to constitutional procedure, and in accepting the application of those regulations and declarations to American citizens and interests in Morocco, right here. It does so without assuming obligation or responsibility for the enforcement thereof.
So that means that it's not their responsibility to enforce any of this. It's our responsibility to enforce it.
Exactly. Well, yes. So there's two answers. That's answer one is yes, that's correct. You're absolutely right about that. The second, I appreciate the bonus answer, which is the number one answer, which is the answer you just gave. The bonus answer is they have to go through the constitutional procedure of their state, right? Mm-hmm. What is the constitutional procedure? Well, DEMT, Moroccan and AMPAG, we go into a treaty. Let's use that as an example. We go into a treaty. Once it's been ratified and deposited, that would be done so in good faith. But it still wouldn't necessarily by law. It still wouldn't necessarily be AMPAG, Maru, or Dempsey's law. We just signed it in good faith. Up to this point, in 1906, it had only been signed in good faith because the constitutional procedure was missing. So what is a constitutional procedure? So when us three, AMPAG, Dempsey, and Maru, signed our treaty, the next step now is to bring it home to our state and enact legislation in support of said treaty, signed by the decolonized and then enacted and signed into law by the Wazir raised the head of state. And then that signature to that treaty from the Wazir, it then gets deposited with the United Nations. At that point is when it becomes law. So basically what this is saying is that being as though the United States of America is in a shallow grave, they do not have a governing body to even accept the treaty through the signature of the head of state, the president. The United States of America had only signed it in good faith. They still needed to bring it back to the Senate. The Senate is who deals with international law, the Senate of the United States. So the United States international organization was supposed to bring it back into their internal legislation and then deposit it once the president signs it, which in this case it was Roosevelt, then deposit it with, in this case, Madrid or Tangiers. And then it becomes law. So up until this point, they hadn't done that. That's the reason why I'm saying that. But now at this point, the United States International Organization has already ratified it and deposited it. So they're fully on board with the Act of Algeciras from that regard. So that's the constitutional procedures or processes that's being referred to in these several provisions, because this language doesn't come from Roosevelt in according ratification according to constitutional procedure. It comes from the Act of Algeciras itself. That's what it says that you need to do. We'll go back up. Let's go look at it. I think it's 122, Article 122. These are the different, okay, so 122, the President General Act shall enter into effect as soon as all the ratifications shall have been deposited. And at the latest, on December 31st, 1906, in case the special legislative measures which may be necessary in certain countries to ensure the application to their nationals living in Morocco. See, that's the special or the necessary application process, right? Of certain stipulations of this present General Act shall not have been enacted by the date fixed for ratification. These stipulations shall only become applicable in respect to them after the legislative measures above referred to shall have been promulgated. That's that procedure. Let me look for the other language. The present General Act shall be ratified according to the constitutional laws of each state. You see, that's what he meant when he says according to the constitutional procedures, constitutional laws, etc. So Article 121 is where they got the language from. Let's get back to it so we can finish up what he was saying. Sorry if this is going too fast when I'm scrolling. I'm just trying to get to it real quick. I hope I ain't making anyone dizzy. All right. So it's according to the constitutional procedures. All right. So now we understand what they meant by that last sentence. And whereas in giving its advice and consent to the ratification of the said General Act and additional protocols, the Senate of the United States, not the United States of America, United States, the United States of America does not have a Senate or a head of state or a judicial branch. It's in a shallow grave. The Senate of the United States resolved as a part of this act of ratification that the Senate understands that the participation of the United States in the Algeciras Conference and in the formulation and adoption of the General Act and Protocol, which resulted therefrom, was with the sole purpose of preserving and increasing its commerce in Morocco. So why did they sign on to the Act of Algeciras? With the sole purpose of preserving and increasing its commerce in Morocco. The protection as to life, liberty, and property of its citizens residing or traveling therein, and of aiding by its friendly offices and efforts in removing friction and controversy which seemed to menace the peace between the powers signatory with the United States to the Treaty of 1880, was the Treaty of 1880, the Treaty of Madrid, all of which are on terms of amity with this government. So the United States is in amity under the terms of amity and commerce, friendly relations, and without purpose to depart from the traditional American foreign policy, which forbids participation by the United States in the settlement of political questions, which are entirely European in their scope. It's entirely European in their scope. Colonization. That's why it's European in their scope, because it's dealing with colonization. And whereas the said General Act and additional protocols were duly ratified by the government of the United States of America and of the other powers aforesaid, and by His Majesty the Sultan of Morocco. And whereas in pursuance of Article 121 of the said General Act, the ratifications of the said General Act, and see, they know how to follow instructions. It's our turn now to learn how to follow instructions, because they're doing things in pursuance of Article 121, which is the provisions or the instruction. And whereas in pursuance of Article 121 of the said General Act, the ratifications of the said General Act and additional protocols of all the signatory powers were deposited with the government of His Majesty the King of Spain, which is in Madrid, Spain, on December 31st, 1906, thereby constituting a valid exchange of the ratifications thereof. We can learn from this. We got to follow the instructions. We can't just do whatever it is that we want to do because we're Moors. That ship has sailed. We have been asleep for far too long. The world has moved on. Now we have to do things in accordance with the instructions set forth by the Charter and international law. You don't like it? Okay, too bad. You have to get in line with the instructions. Spend 10 years showing your competency, that you belong in the international community once again. And once you're able to reestablish yourself in the international community, then perhaps we can change the rules and do whatever we want.
Islam.
At this point, we must follow the instructions. Go ahead, brother.
Islam, this is Amir Hassanel, Wazir of New Mecca.
Islam, good brother.
Islam. What I'm noticing here is that the United States is basically just taking the place what the Moors should have been doing. They've taken control of all public works. They've taken control of the police. Everything in this treaty that the Moors were supposed to do, since we were asleep, the United States took that position and it's been ruling us ever since. And thank God for my brother Jay Bay, who recognized this and started sharing it with all of us, and so that we can now start following the instructions and becoming competent states. So that's just what I noticed here, man. I didn't mean to spoil your flow.
No, you're good. Trading places.
Yes, exactly.
Trading places. And so the decolonization simply means trading places right back again.
Exactly.
And his name ain't J. Germain Bay. His name is Saint Germain Bay.
Okay, then. You want to? All right, I can accept that.
But no, trading places is decolonization,
Hmm.
because trading places means that we're taking back over control of the vast empire. We're
Right,
taking the public works, the public services, the banking, the taxes, control of the guns, arms.
right. For over
Right.
the last 200 years, man, the world has been upside down. Now we're going to turn it right side up once we restore our states and
Right.
become the Moors that we're supposed to be.
Which is what the prophet entrusted us with, which is uplifting fallen humanity.
Exactly.
You can't
Exactly.
uplift fallen humanity without without the Moors raising up, because the Moors are humanity, specifically the mothers.
Hmm.
They all nations of the earth came through her womb, the great Moabitess. Okay, and so uplifting her is uplifting all of humanity. So
Right.
this decolonization document is not limited to the Moors. It's for all people, but the Moors are the ones who have to take back control. Until then, things will continue to be ran as a muck. You know,
Right.
it will continue going to and fro, devouring nations. You know, but we've been asleep while they were doing that. Now that we're coming back alive, we can put a stop to all of this, and that's what the Act of Algeciras is for. You're absolutely right. In our absence, they've been utilizing. They were the competent power by default who would be able to enforce these treaties upon us since we were sleeping.
Right.
Right. So, Islam, good brother, I appreciate the interjection. That's correct what you were saying. I'll continue.
Okay.
Now, therefore, be it known that I, Theodore Roosevelt, President of the United States of America, yeah, right. You're the President of the United States, not the President of the United States of America.
So that's a bold-faced lie.
That's a bold-faced lie. Have caused the said General Act and additional protocol to be made public, to the end that the same and every article and clause thereof may be observed and fulfilled with good faith. That is pacta sunt servanta. Agreements must be kept, right, in good faith, by the United States and the citizens thereof, subject to the reservation made in the aforesaid declaration of the plenipotentiaries of the United States and to the resolution of the Senate, right? So he said it right the second and third time. No, all right, let's go. Let's do this again. Now, therefore, be it known that I, Theodore Roosevelt, President of the United States of America, boldface lie, have caused the said General Act and additional protocols to be made public, to the end that the same and every article and clause thereof may be observed and fulfilled with good faith by the United States. Why didn't he say the United States of America then? And the citizens thereof, and the citizens thereof, the corporations thereof, subject to the reservation made in the aforesaid declaration of the plenipotentiaries of the United States, not the United States of America, and to the resolution of the Senate, because the Senate, the United States has a Senate, not the United States of America. But you see how they're bouncing back and forth. First, he said the United States of America. Now he's saying the United States. They don't know which way to go. And that's why we got to find a way to identify them properly as we go forward. And we've already been discussing that. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States of America. So now he went back to the United States of America. You see the back and forth? To be hereunto affixed. Done at the city of Washington this 22nd day of January in the year of our Lord, 1907, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 100st, by the Theodore Roosevelt. Now look what it says
Now,
here.
when you mentioned how they're jumping back and forth between the United States and the United States of America, is one of the main reasons. They do it in the movies and everything. One of the main reasons why I think when they hear United States, they automatically think it's the United States of America.
Mhm. That's the unknowing, unsuspected citizen, the ignorant people. The ignorant,
Yeah, that's the programming.
that's the programming. They don't know.
Yeah, it is exactly.
That's all it is. So look what it says here, by the president, Elihu Root, Secretary of State. Can anybody tell me whether you remember seeing that name? Elihu Root.
Yeah. There's another document that he was in when he was explaining the fact that the the Moors, they have no, there's no such thing as a Moroccan citizen. They're only nationals or subjects, and he was explaining that to the Secretary of State for the United States.
Okay, you're close.
Is that the document right there?
That's the document right here.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it was Hoffman Philip, Mr. Philip, Chargé d'Affaires, to Mr. Root, Secretary of State. So it was Hoffman Philip talking to Mr. Root about the matters that you were just expressing, dealing with the Moroccan nationality and the expatriation document that we went over several times. So that's where you would recall to find the name Mr. Root, Secretary of State. You see how it all links together? In August 3rd of 1906, but they weren't talking about the Act of Algeciras, they were talking about the Treaty of Madrid. This is why we got to double down on these treaties, because those are the treaties that they are having backdoor discussions about. The Treaty of Madrid and the Act of Algeciras. You see? So by the president, Elihu Root, Secretary of State. So this is Theodore Roosevelt's proclamation regarding the Act of Algeciras. And what's the thing that sticks out the most? Well, the purpose.
Yeah, they're only here for commerce.
They're here for they're here for the sole purpose of them signing on to
increasing commerce. Yeah.
There you go, increasing commerce, and then also the protection to life, liberty, and the property of its citizens. So, what's really being said there is that when we force decolonization and take back control of our vast empire, vast estate, that's what we got to offer these people.
Mm-hmm.
You got to offer them the right for commerce, preserve their commerce, but more importantly, the protection of their life, liberty, and their property. Keeping in mind that their property is only their property after the Qadi has solidified, what's the word that they said in the treaty, satisfied himself with the validity of the transaction in accordance with Mohammedan law. So if you're not doing things in accordance with Mohammedan law, you can't have property no way, right? But your life can be protected, and you may have liberty. So that's our responsibility as Moroccan states, is to provide protections of life, liberty, and protection and property of not just their citizens, but all inhabitants of Morocco, to include our nationals, right? So you've got the American inhabitants, who are the American inhabitants. Everyone else except for Moroccans and Moroccan subjects, right? So your foreign Korean that moves over here and naturalizes or gains citizenship through the United States, whoever, Mexicans, any and all peoples of the earth except for Moroccans. I mean, you could be from Nigeria. You're melanated. You're an Asiatic from Nigeria, but you're not Moroccan. So therefore, you would fall under the jurisdiction or the identity of an American inhabitant, because you came to pledge allegiance to the United States of America. Therefore, you are a U.S. citizen. Therefore, you are an American inhabitant. However, the only other people outside of that would be Moroccan nationals and Moroccan subjects. The Moroccan subjects are the Negroes, blacks, and coloreds who are continuously acquiescing and not choosing between entire submission. Therefore, they remain ipso jure subjects. They fall under our jurisdiction and our authority as well,
including Moorish Americans.
Including Moorish Americans. Including Moorish Americans. All right, so let's get into the actual document. Now that we went over President Roosevelt's proclamation, in the name of Almighty Allah, So they're going to name off a bunch of names, plenipotentiaries that we're going to skip past because we can't even pronounce half their names. So His Majesty the Emperor of Germany, King of Prussia, in the name of the German Empire, His Majesty the Emperor of Austria. Give me 1 second. Let me address a few text messages here. I don't know, brother. I can't. Everyone else has signed on through that same link. I don't know why he can't see it. Oh man, it's too easy. Why are we making this so difficult? All right. I'm sorry about that. I just needed to address a national who always needs you to send them the link directly while everybody else get it from the Telegram, and he has the same Telegram. I don't get it. His Majesty the Emperor of Germany, King of Prussia, in the name of the German Empire, His Majesty the Emperor of Austria, King of Bohemia, etc., and Apostolic King of Hungary, His Majesty the King of the Belgians, His Majesty the King of Spain, the President of the United States of America, the President of the Republic, His Majesty the King of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, British dominions beyond the seas, Emperor of India. So even the Emperor of India, I didn't. Oh man, the Sultan
And
summoned
etc.
everybody.
It says the
Right.
Emperor of India,
And then it says
etc.
etc. Oh man, it's a vast estate, it's a vast empire. They're all part of it. His Majesty the King of Italy, His Majesty the Sultan of Morocco, Her Majesty the Queen of the Netherlands, His Majesty the King of Portugal, and of the Algarves, etc., etc., etc. His Majesty the Emperor of all the Russias, His Majesty the King of Sweden, inspired by the interest attaching itself. Now, this is all part of the preamble. Inspired by the interest attaching itself to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity where? In Morocco. And recognizing that the attainment thereof can only be effected by means of the introduction of reforms based on the triple principles. So they have to reform some things, right? The administration of Morocco. And it was done so based upon the triple principles of the sovereignty and independence of His Majesty the Sultan, the integrity of his domains, and economic liberty without any inequality. So all the states coming online, they have a check the first box of the triple principle, which is sovereignty and independence. And we're all currently working on the integrity of domains. The integrity of domains. So the sovereignty and independence deals with the establishment of your state government, your ratified, deposited, and promulgated constitution. Your integrity of domain deals with your laws, your internal laws, your Moroccan laws, your legislation, etc. And then obviously economic liberty without any inequality is when we have taken over control over the infrastructure and the system that governs Morocco, and that also provide for the welfare of the people. All right. Where was I? What did I do here? Okay, so the integrity of his domains and economic liberty without any inequality have resolved upon the invitation of His Sharifian Majesty. So the Sharifian Majesty is who invited everyone. He summoned everyone to call together a conference at Algeciras for the purpose of arriving at an understanding upon the said reforms. So all these states were brought together to come up with an understanding, or arrive at an understanding upon the said reforms, right? The administrative reforms of Morocco. We have to change some things around here. Things are running, are going out of control here in the empire. We have to bring that, bring the issues that Morocco is dealing with to a halt through reforms, right? As well as examining the means for obtaining the resources necessary for their application, and have appointed as their delegates plenipotentiary the following: His Majesty the Emperor of Germany, King of Prussia, in the name of the German Empire, Mr. Joseph Doradowitz, his ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to his Catholic Majesty, and Christian, Count of Tannenbach, his envoy extraordinary and minister plenipotentiary to his very faithful Majesty, His Majesty the Emperor of Austria, King of Bohemia, etc., and Apostolic King of Hungary, Rudolph, Count to Welserheim, his ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to his Catholic Majesty, and Leopold, Count Bolesta Kozybratsky, his envoy extraordinary and minister plenipotentiary to Morocco, His Majesty the King of the Belgians, Maurice Baron Justins, his envoy extraordinary and minister plenipotentiary to his Catholic Majesty, and Conrad, Count of Visseret Steenbach, the Blaringhem, whatever, his envoy extraordinary and minister plenipotentiary to Morocco, so on and so forth. All the minister plenipotentiaries, the president of the French Republic, the president of the United States of America to Morocco, right? His Majesty, the King of the United Kingdom and the Great Britain and Ireland and of the British dominions beyond the seas, Emperor of India. They're repeating these people twice. Sir Arthur Nicholson, his ambassador extraordinaire and plenipotentiary to His Majesty, the Emperor of all the Russias, right? All these people. So now look at these names. So Malcolm X went off to Africa as Malcolm X, came back as a new man. What name did he come back with? El Hajj. So his Majesty, the Sultan of Morocco, El Hajj Mohammed. El Hajj Mohammed bin El Arbi Torres, his delegate at Tangier and ambassador extraordinaire. El Hajj Mohammed bin Abdesalam El Makri, his minister of expenses. So we're seeing our title here, the ills in the bays with the wheels in their ways. El Hajj Mohammed as Safar and Sid Abderrahman Benis, Her Majesty the Queen of the Netherlands, John Kier Hannibal Testa, her envoy extraordinary and minister plenipotentiary to His Catholic Majesty. Right, so we already ran over the El Hajjes, all the El Hajjes, right? So then as you get past all the signatory powers, then it goes on to say, who furnished with full powers. So all these minister plenipotentiaries in countries are furnished with full powers, which were found in good and due form, have in conformity with the program upon which His Sharifian Majesty and the powers have agreed, successively discussed and adopted. 1, a declaration relative to the organization of the police. So all these signatory powers and their plenipotentiaries, including the United States of America and its plenipotentiaries, have agreed to Chapter 1, a declaration relative to the organization of the police. They have agreed to Chapter 2, a regulation concerning the detection and repression of the contraband of arms. They have agreed to Chapter 3, an act of concession for a Moroccan state bank. They have agreed to Chapter 4, a declaration concerning a better return of taxes and the creation of new revenues. They have agreed to Chapter 5, a regulation concerning the customs of the empire and the repression of fraud and smuggling. They have agreed to Chapter 6, a declaration relative to public services and public works, right? And have been decided that these different documents might usefully be coordinated in a single instrument. They have united them in a general act composed of the following articles. And this is where we go into Chapter 1, Article 1. What does Chapter 1 say? Declaration relative to the organization of the police. All right, let's see something here. Before I go in, where is Sister? She's not on, I don't think. I see good brother Kirk Palmer Bay, Islam, good brother. I was looking for Sister Jama Musa Bay. I guess she's not in right now. Okay. Excuse me. She did say that she may be late. Okay, so Article 1. The conference summoned by His Majesty the Sultan So His Majesty the Sultan said, "Oh, y'all, come on over to this round table. Let's talk about these reforms for the prosperity and security." Can you please mute yourself, please? Can somebody mute yourself? Is it you, Brother Kirk?
That's Kurt, man. Kurt got a mute.
Brother Kirk, could you please? Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, Islam. So the Sultan, His Majesty the Sultan, has summoned everybody. Y'all come on to this round table and let's discuss the reforms for the protections and the security of the empire, right? Pronounced on the measures necessary to organize the police, declares that the following provisions should be made. Article 2, the police shall be under the sovereign authority of His Majesty the Sultan. His Majesty the Sultan is no longer a thing, so therefore now the Moroccan states. So what does it say? The police shall be under the sovereign authority of Moroccan governments. So why are we having problems with police brutality when police are under the jurisdiction of Morocco? It shall be recruited by the Moxin from Moorish Mohammedans, commanded by Moorish Cades, and distributed in the 8 ports open to commerce. I just paused to let it sit there and let it marinate. Why do we have problems with the police when we have control over the police? Article 3, in order to aid the Sultan in the organization of this police, Spanish officers and non-commissioned officers as instructors and French officers and non-commissioned officers as instructors shall be placed at his disposal by the respective governments, which shall submit their designation to the approval of His Sharifian Majesty, or the approval of what? Our Moroccan governments. A contract.
So, I just want to get some clarity on this.
Go ahead.
Okay. So when it's talking about the ports open to commerce, it doesn't mean just the ports, yes, regarding the police.
Clarify that question.
Well, let me see. Hold on. Where it says in order, organization.
Do I need to scroll up a little bit?
Yes. Okay, right there. The police shall be under the sovereign authority of His Majesty the Sultan. So that's like the police will be under the sovereign authority of the Moorish states.
Mm-hmm.
It shall be recruited by the Moroccan government, Mohammedans from the Moorish people, commanded by Moorish Khedives, and distributed in the 8 ports open to commerce.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that the police will just be watching ports. All right, that's what
the ports is the access to the different points of the empire. These are the ports, right? So these are the access points from the sea to inland, right? So they're
the doorways. You could say it's like the entry points.
There you go. The 8 different entry points.
Islam.
Article 3. In order to aid the Sultan in the what was I? I was actually further beyond that.
You were talking about the instructors.
Yeah. I'll go over it again. In order to aid the Sultan in the organization of this police, Spanish officers and non-commissioned officers as instructors and French officers and non-commissioned officers as instructors shall be placed at his disposal. Whose disposal? The
Moorish government.
There you go.
Now, so that means if we wanted to set up like Indemte or Maru or AMPAG, our police force, we can seek the aid of the French and Spanish as far as training our people. Is that right?
We could, but that's old news.
Mm-hmm.
because they've already been established and trained. So now it's just a matter of us taking over what's already in place now.
All right.
You see? So in our jurisdiction, you got Cobb County, you got Fulton County Police. They all fall under our jurisdiction and authority.
So basically, we wouldn't have to like move them out the way, put our people back in place. And so basically, we would just regulate them.
That's it.
Okay. All right.
One of the reasons why we don't even want them to leave. Because
Mhm.
they've done an excellent job at establishing the public services and public works, because the
So,
police.
but now they would have to follow our instructions, like just,
That's what
All
decolonization
right.
means, taking control of the governance of Morocco.
all right.
Instead of us being the ones being governed, we're the ones that need to be doing the governing.
Yeah, because when I was watching that video with Lamont, with Lamont getting arrested, and all them policy enforcers that came after him, and the way they came after him, I'm like, wow. So that would put an end to that. Unless,
Well, yeah, if you choose between entire submission, but Lamont L, the problem with Lamont L is that he has segued his demonstration from just strictly getting people out, which he can't seem to get himself out, because now they're asking for cash app for possibly bonding out, which means you're not getting yourself out the same way you claimed, quote unquote,
yes,
that you got
yes.
everybody out. Why aren't you using those same processes to get yourself out? But
I
what
think
really,
they've been watching these videos just like we haven't been, and they're like,
that's what I'm
yeah,
saying. His demonstration has changed. It's changed
yeah.
now to he is calling for arms now. That's what got him. That's what got him messed up. Is the arms. That is the Smith Act of what year was that, brother Amir? The Smith Act of 1940, and then the new legislation of 1996, which is the Anti-Terrorism and Death Penalty Act, which deals with any form of terrorism or anti-terrorism. And
So
when
they're
you
looking
start,
at him like a terrorist, is what you're saying.
that's what they're looking at him as, and that's how they looked at Jamal as.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have little 38s. These guys running around with high-powered rifles. And so now he's charging, keep in mind, he charges for everything, which
Mm-hmm.
was so now he's charging $25 a head to enter into some gun range to practice using big guns and all this stuff. Keep in mind that he had already established that a couple months ago, and he embarrassed the police officers who showed up, and he videotaped it and put it on YouTube, embarrassing those folks. This is where his lack of diplomacy came into play, and it bit him in his butt. Because you don't just, it's not, he embarrassed him. He made it look like, he had all the authority. So guess what they did? They came right back at him and showed him who really has the authority. That's
Yeah,
why
they sure did. I watched that video and I'm like, wow, he thought he was gonna go and have a meeting or a talk with them because they said something to him to get him there, and he gets across the street and they just got on him.
the
Rest.
setup that got him there was the other Moor who requested his presence, and then he showed up, went across the street,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it was an ambush.
Mm-hmm. It was an ambush. Yes, it was.
The thing that proved to me was that he realized that he's under the jurisdiction of the United States.
Yes.
He's going around talking about he's the consul general of Morocco, and that he's a Moorish American, and he just realized he should have that information, that what he was doing, he was not of a state of his own, a Moroccan
Yep.
state.
Yep,
He is
'cause-
what is called a Moroccan subject or a Moorish subject.
Yes, yes,
And he
yes.
falls under the jurisdiction of the United States. And
Yeah, and when he was wearing his uniforms and his people wearing the uniforms and all of that, all decked out, and he has the Empire flag, he don't have a state flag. Empire flag, that's right.
Well, here's the thing with Moors from the old paradigm. We tend to believe that the Moroccan Empire is still in existence, and while at the same time knowing that it's in a shallow grave.
Mhm.
So coming and we're going with that understanding. You know, it's in a shallow grave. There is no government. So therefore,
Yeah.
no protections. There is no president. There is no judicial branch. There is no legislative branch that you can petition consular court through. This is where the state governments come in. This is why we need New Mecca. This is why we need AMPAG. This is why we need AMPAG. This is why we need Maru and Dempsey and the others to come online so that then we can reestablish the government of Morocco, the empire.
Right.
You see, but they're acting outside of law because they're acting as if the Moroccan Empire is in full force and it's really not. Right. And so you can't be a consul who, first of all, you know, you don't self-appoint yourself as the consul general. And so, but you're the consul general of consular court, but then where's the chief judge? You're still missing a body. You're still missing an official there. That's the chief judge. So you just the consul general. So you're the jury and the executioner. Like, it's ridiculous what we're doing here. And that's what got him. That's the proof and the evidence that he's still a Moorish subject, because he was apprehended.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Him up. So
they did their research and said, arrest him.
Well, they didn't need to do too much of a heavy research. They just needed to see that he's now talking about these guns. And whenever
they're worried about is the guns. When we, as our states, your states, we're supposed to control that, and that's gonna change a whole lot.
Well, when we say, well, we have to do it from a competent perspective, making the proper claim. Without the proper claim, we're not in a competent position to do any of this. And you're competent. What he was doing is not competent, because it's not based on the establishment of a state that sanctions consular court. It's a standalone consular court, which is, if you look around planet Earth, there is no such thing as a court that's not sanctioned by the state. Just as well as there is national across planet Earth that's a national on his own, or through a website, or through some process that's incompetent. All the nationals claim their nationality from the state, whatever that country might be. Moors keep doing things backwards and out of order. And which means then that we're outside of law, we're outlaws, which means then all the laws of the country will apply to us without any restrictions. That's paragraph 2 of the Treaty of Madrid, Article 15. Continuing on, a contract drawn between the Moxen and these instructors in conformity to the regulation provided by Article 4 shall determine the conditions of their engagement and fix their pay, which must not be less than double of the pay corresponding to the rank of each officer or non-commissioned officer. In addition, they will be allowed living expenses varying according to their residences. Proper lodgings will be placed at their disposal by the Moxen. But again, the Moxen Moxen means a state or government in Moroccan Arabic, which is the lesser term. The higher term, or definition, I should say, is the lesser definition. The higher definition is, whereas the Moxen is the governing body that surrounds the Sultan, right? So you'd have the Sultan, and then you have the prime minister that operates on behalf of the Sultan. But there is no Sultan anymore. So now the Moxen revolves around the people now, because the people are the Sultan. Okay, so I'm just clarifying what the term Moxen means. Proper lodgings will be placed at their disposal by the Moxen, which will likewise supply them with their horses and the necessary fodder. The governments having jurisdiction over the instructors, Moroccan governments, having jurisdiction over the instructors, reserve the right to recall them and replace them by others accepted and engaged under the same conditions. Another thing I like to point out, let's keep in mind all the other Moorish terms, or even Negro terms, that we apply to ourselves as it relates to our so-called identity, and let's see if they even appear in the treaty, right? We'll see. The parties must be known, and they're identifying who the competent authority is in Morocco, being that competent authority being the Moroccans, but under what capacity, right? So, Washington Moors, they spelled Moors with the U, M-U-U-R.
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So we'll see if that term is in the treaties as we go through the treaties. Amongst other terms that we utilize, such as Moorish Americans, we already know that's not in the treaty. All right. So Article 4, these officers and non-commissioned officers for a period of 5 years to date from the ratification of Act of the Conference shall give their service to the organization of a body of Sharifian police. They shall ensure or assure instruction and discipline in conformity with the regulation to be drawn up in respect thereto. They shall also see that the men enlisted are fit for military service. In a general way, they shall supervise the administration of the soldiers and superintend the payment of their salary, which shall be effected by the Amin, assisted by the accounting officer instructor, the Amin. And they have Amin in quotation marks, assisted by the accounting officer. They shall extend to the Moorish authorities, not the Moorish American authorities, not the Pan-African authorities, not the Negro authorities, not the African American authorities, not the Cherokee authorities, not the Hebrew Israelite authorities, not the Seminole authorities, not the Indian authorities, not the Aboriginal authorities, none of those. Moorish authorities. We have to come in the name of our ancient foremothers and forefathers if we're looking to seek remedy, freedom, and justice. You must come in the name of your ancestors. You cannot come in the name of in some nickname given to you by some colonist or some sellout Moor or sellout Negro. It doesn't say African authorities. Alex Haley, because Alex Haley had us thinking that we were Africans. Well, this doesn't say African authorities. Marcus Garvey had us thinking we were Pan-Africans. Well, this doesn't say nothing about Pan-African authorities. It's not about the red, black, and green. It's not about RBG. It's not about Hebrew Israelites. It's not about any of this stuff. It's not about the Olmecs. It's not about Kemet. These are all the identities. But this says Moorish authorities. So then that means then if we want remedy, we need to come in the name of Moorish authorities, not Pan-African authorities. I mean, it's just that simple. This is the confusion. We have so many identities, but none of which is being recognized as Moroccan. They shall extend to the Moorish authorities invested with the command of these bodies, their technical aid in the exercise of the said command. The regulations to ensure their recruital, discipline, instruction, and administration of the bodies of police shall be established by mutual agreement between the Sharifian Minister of War or his delegate, the Sharifian Minister of War, not the Pan-African Minister of War, not the Black Minister of War, not the Negro Minister of War, certainly not the Moorish American Minister of War, the Sharifian Minister of War or his delegate, the inspector provided by Article 7 and the highest ranking French and Spanish instructors. The regulations shall be submitted to the diplomatic body at Tangier, which will formulate its opinion within a month's time. After that period, the regulations shall be enforced. Article 5. The total strength of the police shall not be more than 2,500 men, nor less than 2,000. I think they got way more than that. It shall be distributed according to the importance of the ports in groups varying between 150 and 600 men. Men, not even women. The number of Spanish and French officers shall be between 16 and 20. Of Spanish and French non-commissioned officers between 30 and 40. Article 6. The funds necessary to maintain and pay soldiers and officers and non-commissioned officer instructors shall be advanced by the State Bank of the Sharifian Treasury, not the Black Treasury, not the Moorish American Treasury, not the Mer treasury, right? Within the limits of the annual budget assigned to the police, which shall not exceed 2.5 million pesetas, for an effective strength of 2,500 men. We ain't even supposed to have women in the police force. Article 7. That's not their lane. Their lane is erudition of the children, etc. Article 7. During the same period of 5 years, a general inspection shall be made into the working of the police. Such inspection shall be entrusted by His Sharifian Majesty to a superior officer of the Swiss Army, who will be submitted to his approval by the Swiss federal government. This officer will be styled Inspector General and reside at Tangier. This is where they get the term Inspector General from. This is how we know that they are following the treaties and we're not. He shall inspect at least once a year the different bodies of the police. And after such inspection, he shall draw up a report which he will address to the Moxen. They're working for the Moxen. What is the Moxen? A Moorish government or state. In addition to such regular reports, he will, if he regards it as necessary, draw up a special report with reference to the working of the police, without directly intervening either in the command or the instruction. The Inspector General will ascertain the results obtained by the Sharifian police as regards the maintenance of order and security in the places where the police shall have been established. Article 8. A copy of the reports and communications made to the Moxen by the Inspector General with reference to his mission shall at the same time be transmitted to the Dean of the diplomatic body at Tangier, in order that the diplomatic body be enabled to satisfy itself that the Sharifian police acts in conformity to the decisions taken by the conference, and to see whether it guarantees effectively and in conformity with the treaties the security of person and property of foreign citizens. Go back over here. What was he looking for? What were they looking for? What did Roosevelt say that they were looking for? Right here. The protection of life, liberty, and property of the citizens. You got that from the Act of Algeciras. Right here. So it says, in conformity with the treaties, the security of person and property of foreign citizens, subjects, and proteges. So the foreign citizens are the American inhabitants of all types, and your subjects and proteges are your Negroes, blacks, and colors, your subjects of Morocco who are subjugated in a different country, in this case, the United States of America, as well as that of commercial transactions. So they're looking, so the United States, the citizens of the United States, they want security of person and property. That's what they're seeking. Nothing more, nothing less. That's easy enough. We can provide them security. You got to pay your taxes though, right? So you're paying taxes to maintain property, security, right? What's this Constitution called this? What's the United States Constitution called it? Help me out, you guys. Pursuit of happiness, security, and something in the pursuit of happiness. You understand what I'm talking about?
Islam, or could it be taxation without representation?
No.
No.
There's a part of the Constitution where it states that they're looking for pursuit of happiness, property, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, something to that effect.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
There you go.
The Declaration of Independence.
That's what they're looking for. That's what they've been looking for. And we can easily offer that to them. Right? That's what the whole purpose was. They're on a protected status. They have already agreed to this in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Okay. Did I read 9 already? In the case of complaints filed with the diplomatic body by the legation concerned, the diplomatic body may, upon notice given to the representative of the Sultan, direct to the Inspector General to investigate and report for all available purposes in the matter of such complaints. Article 10. The Inspector General shall receive an annual salary of 25,000 francs. Look at that, French money. In addition, he will be allowed 6,000 francs for the expenses of his tours. So is that called per diem? Is that where they get the idea of per diems? The Moxon will place at his disposal a suitable residence and will look after the maintenance of his horses. Article 11. The material conditions of his engagement and of his establishment as provided by Article 10 shall be the subject of a contract drawn up between him and the Moxon. A copy of this contract shall be communicated to the diplomatic body. Article 12. The staff of instructors of the Sharifian police officers and non-commissioned officers shall be Spanish at Tetuan, mixed at Tangier, Spanish at Larache, French at Rabat, mixed at Casablanca, and French in the other 3 ports. And that's it for chapter 1, which is the organization of the police. So we know that. And so also, by the way, it says officers and non-commissioned officers. Based on what I know and understand in life as a former airman, Air Force airman, I used to be in Air Force. You have your officers and you have your non-commissioned officers. Your officers are those who went to college and are like, got their degree and came into the military as officers, as commissioned officers, which is, your lieutenants, captains, majors, etc. And then you have your non-commissioned officers, which are your senior airmen or your soldiers, your regular sergeants, your first sergeants, your tech sergeants, your master sergeants, etc. These are your non-commissioned officers. So my point in saying these things is that it reflects not just your regular police, but also military. That's the point that I'm making, right? Because you're talking about officers and non-commissioned officers. Officers and non-commissioned officers are police, are military personnel, i.e. Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard, National Guard. We have control over all that. Now, chapter 2, a regulation concerning the detection and repression of the contraband of arms. So now we're talking about the contraband of arms. Before I continue on to chapter 2, and are there any questions relating or regarding chapter 1, the formation of the police, control of the police, or anything of that effect? Okay. So Article 2, Article 13. Throughout the Sharifian Empire, not throughout America, not throughout the United States. It states specifically throughout the Sharifian Empire. So we're identifying the names of the parties: Moorish Empire, Sharifian Empire, Moroccan Empire. They're all synonymous. Throughout the Sharifian Empire, except in the cases specified by Articles 14 and 15, the importation and sale is forbidden of arms of war, parts of guns, ammunition of any nature, loaded or unloaded, powder, saltpeter, gun cotton, nitroglycerin, and all compositions destined exclusively for the manufacture of ammunition. Now that's prohibited throughout the Sharifian Empire, not in parts of it, throughout the entire empire.
That's gonna be a whole lot of work cleaning all that up, because that they got guns and all of that everywhere.
Especially the redneck boys, they got guns, they got basements full of guns and ammo.
Yep.
Right? And this is prohibited throughout the entire Sharifian Empire, not parts of it, all of it. And the only people who can maintain or hold on to guns are the Moroccan through their Moroccan governments. No one else, unless they have a permit or some sort of licensing. They use another term. We'll come across the term. I forget the term. What was the term? I forgot the term. We'll come across that particular term. Article 14, such explosives as are necessary for industry and public works may, however, be introduced. That's like explosives to, they use explosives to build stuff, and, they got to blow up certain things to build certain things. A regulation drawn up in the manner indicated by Article 18 shall determine the conditions under which their importation may be effected. Article 15, the arms, parts of guns, and ammunition intended for the troops of His Sharifian Majesty will be admitted after the fulfillment of the following formalities: a declaration signed by the Moorish Minister of War, not the Black Minister of War, not the Moorish American Minister of War, not the Black American Minister of War, not the Pan-African Minister of War, not the Hebrew Israelite Minister of War, the Moorish Minister of War, describing the number and nature of such articles ordered abroad must be presented to the legation of the country of their origin, whose visa shall be affixed thereto. Keep in mind, J. Jermaine Bey didn't write this. I didn't write this. No one on the line has written this. This was written in 1906 or enacted in 1906 during the time of the Prophet by the Moxen or the Sharifian authorities. What can I say? There was the Sharifian authorities who wrote this. And they didn't say Black anything or Moorish American anything or Negro anything. Moorish Minister of War. The passage through the customs of the cases and packages containing the arms and munitions delivered at the order of the Moorish government, not the Black government, not the Negro government, not the Moorish American government. I'm gonna keep saying these things because we have to get fixed in our heads the name, the parties to the contract. And the parties to the contract are not Cherokees, they're not Mers. Okay? They're not Olmecs, they're not Canadians, they're not Baptists, they're not Jehovah's Witnesses, they're not Nation of Islam, they're not Crips and Bloods, they're not any of that. What are they? Moorish governments shall be affected upon the presentation, 1, of the aforesaid declaration, 2, of the invoice indicating the number and weight of the packages and the number and kind of the arms and munitions contained therein. This document must be visaed by the legation of the country of their origin, which will mark on the back the successive amounts previously passed through the customs. This visa will be refused when the order shall have been entirely delivered. Article 16, the importation of sporting and high-priced arms, parts of guns, cartridges loaded and unloaded is likewise forbidden. It may nonetheless be authorized, 1, for the strictly personal requirements of the importer, 2, for supplying the gun shops authorized by Article 18. Article 17, sporting and high-priced arms and the ammunition for the same will be admitted for the strictly personal requirements of the importer on presentation of a permit issued by the representatives of the Moxen at Tangiers. So the Moxen must issue a permit in order for you to be able to carry sporting and high-priced arms. And if you don't have that permit, then you're toting guns against Moroccan law, as all of them are doing currently as we speak. If the importer is a foreigner, This permit will only be granted at the request of his legation. Right? So his legation, what is this? What is the legation? The legation is like the embassy of a country. Right? So his legation got to get permission from the Moxen in order for the legation to extend to the foreigner the permit, is what it's saying. With respect to ammunition for sporting purposes, each permit shall allow a maximum of 1,000 cartridges or the supplies necessary for the manufacture of 1,000 cartridges. The permit shall only be issued to those who have never been sentenced for any offense. That's what they're enforcing upon us. If you got a felony, you can't have no guns. Am I right or wrong? Ask T.I. What was that?
I said, that's right.
Yes, that's exactly what the United States is doing. They're following this treaty and they're doing it by the T also. So if you got a felony with the United States, they say you can't have a gun. And again, they're following the treaties. Exactly.
So despite, okay, I just want to ask a question, right? So based on that, you can't even invoke, like, and I'm kind of late to the chat, so forgive me if you had already covered this, but like invoking the Second Amendment, that's not valid enough. And then standing on like the technicalities of what is a sawed-off shotgun, what is a firearm, that's not good enough.
That's good enough for those who are subjects to the American jurisdiction, i.e. Moorish subjects. So if you fall under their jurisdiction, then you fall under the authority of the Constitution. But us being Moroccan nationals outside of who has chosen between the entire submission of the empire, who's outside of American jurisdiction, we have our own laws. And this is it right here.
Yeah, but at the same time, the United States fall under Moorish jurisdiction also. So
exactly. So they're doing as the treaty says to do.
yes.
And they're doing it with the subjects. Who are the subjects and citizens? The citizens are everyone else, and the subjects are the melanated people, the Moroccans. Does that answer your question, Sister Musa? Musa Bey?
It do. It's disheartening at times, but yeah.
It's quite disheartening. And since you're feeling that energy, go ahead and read Article 18 for me, please, sister.
All right, it says the trade in sporting and high price arms, not rifled, of foreign manufacture, as well as of the ammunition appertaining to the same, shall be regulated as soon as circumstances permit by the Sharifan decision made in conformity with the advice of a majority of the diplomatic body at Tangier. This shall be the case as well with decisions intended to suspend or restrict the exercise of such trade. Only such persons as have secured a special or temporary license from the Moorish government shall be allowed.
Pause right there. Only such, and remember where you left off so you can continue. Only such persons as have secured a special and temporary license from not the Black government, not the Negro government, not the Moorish American government, not the Pan-African government, not any other government, but the Moorish government. Continue, sister.
Shall be allowed to open and operate retail shops for the sale of sporting guns and ammunition. This license shall only be given at the written request of the applicant endorsed by his legation.
Yes.
What is legation?
Legation, I said that earlier. A legation is like your embassy. It's an embassy, right? So the legation, so all the signatory powers, in this case, you had Spain, Great Britain, France, United States of America, Austria, Hungary, etc. All those states, all those signatory powers had a legation in Tangier. or an embassy in Tangier. So what that's saying is that if you're from, let's say you're a foreign citizen in Morocco who belongs to France, you got to get your permission from the legation, your legation, the embassy of your country. But the embassy of your country or the legation of your country must first get the permit from the Moorish government. So the Moorish government extends the permission to the legation, and the legation extends it to their nationals or their citizens.
So what would be the process now of getting that written request to endorse the legation of carrying a firearm? Because in my personal opinion, it's important. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, to even be able to operate and to protect ourselves. Like, shit is wacky. Now, I'm not saying we got to be gun toting, all crazy. Like
I think you're
the Wild West,
misunderstanding. No. You're misunderstanding what the purpose of this is. It's them who don't have the right to bear arms without our permission. It's not us. We can bear arms through. Obviously, there still are laws that must be adhered to, Moroccan laws that must be adhered to, because it comes from our state governments. But what this is saying is that all the other foreign citizens are not allowed to hold guns unless we give them the permission to do so. Do you understand that? Understand it from that perspective?
Yeah, I do.
That's right. Let me do something before you continue. Let's see here. I have to do it. I always got to do it. If we were to Google the term legation and we just use the surface information, like right here, it says a diplomatic minister, especially one below the rank of ambassador, and their staff. So like if we were to say American legation, so you have French legation, American legation, American. So you see American legation in Tangiers. They all were in Tangiers. So if you go here, the American legation, officially the Tangier American Legation Institute for Moroccan Studies, is a building in the Medina of, okay, so this is explaining what the building is now, because this is an old thing. It doesn't even exist anymore, which is how I was going to answer your question. The Tangier American Legation, officially the Tangier American Legation Institute for Moroccan Studies, is a building in the Medina of Tangier, Morocco, formerly the Chancery of the United States Diplomatic Mission to Morocco. So formerly it was the Chancery of the United States Diplomatic Missions to Morocco. It was the first American public property abroad and is the only U.S. National Historic Landmark located in a foreign country. The legation was established on May 17, 1821. Sultan Mohammed bin Abdallah issued a proclamation recognizing U.S. independence from Great Britain on December 20th, 1777, making his nation the first to do so. The building was gifted by the Sultan to the U.S. government to serve as a diplomatic post, for which it served for the next 140 years. So it's a diplomatic post, it's a political post. And all the other, you had American legation, you had the French legation, you had the Spanish legation, you had the British legation. That's to further answer your question about the legation. And I hope I did a decent enough job answering that for you real quick. All right.
You had one question, right? So being that delegation, in a sense, is not in its form of how it was originally, what would the embassy now be like the current new name, which is in similarity?
Okay. Well, excellent question. So at the time when the Sultan was in power, the governing seat, or the seat of power, was located in Morocco, the Kingdom of Morocco, which is where you'll find Tangiers. So now the Sultan has reduced himself to be the king of the Kingdom of Morocco. So the entire legation and diplomatic body and all that stuff of the time have been was the word I'm looking for, dissolved. And so in doing so, because the Sultan has reduced himself to becoming the king, the lane of authority over Morocco, the empire, was left open for Moroccan state governments. And so no longer do we have the Tangiers or the diplomatic body to work with. You just work strictly off of the powers of our state governments. Does that answer your question? Does that make sense?
It does.
So we don't require, so there is no legations anymore. Now we're just working face to face directly, if that makes any sense. There's no in between like a Tangiers legation or the diplomatic body. Instead, it's direct contact state to state.
Okay, makes sense. It does.
Islam. All right, you may continue. Regulations drawn up in the manner.
Regulations drawn up in the matter indicated by the first paragraph of this article shall determine the number of such retail shops which may be open at Tangier, and if occasion arises in the post that may be later designed, they shall fix the formalities.
It should be later designated. Continue.
Later designated, they shall fix the formalities to be imposed on the importation of explosive intended for industry and public works of arms and ammunition intended to supply such shops, as well as the maximum quantity of stock that can be kept. In the case of the violation of the regulating ordinance, the license may temporarily or permanently withdraw without prejudice to the other penalties incurred by the offenders. Every introduction of
Article 19. Don't forget that part. Article 19. Go ahead.
Article 19. Every introduction of or attempt to introduce the prohibited merchandise shall make it liable to confiscation and further to the punishments and fines mentioned below, which shall be pronounced by the competent jurisdiction.
All right, hold right there. So it says every introduction of or attempt to introduce the prohibited merchandise shall make it liable to confiscation. So when a black man gets pulled over and he has a gun that's unregistered, what the police do with that gun?
They take it.
Confiscation.
And
They're following the treaty. Continue. Article 20.
Article 20, the introduction or attempt to introduce in a port open to commerce or through a custom house shall be punished by fines of 500 to 2,000 pesetas, and an additional fine equal to these two punishments. Article 21, the introduction.
Hold on. You said that wrong. Fine equal to 3 times the value of the imported merchandise. Okay, go ahead. Number 2, by imprisonment.
By imprisonment of from 5 days to a year, or else by only one of these two punishments.
Islam. That's a first degree and a second degree.
Yes, it's Islam. Thank you, brother. Thanks for the clarification. Yes.
Okay, that does make sense. That does.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Article 22. The
No,
fraudulent.
21, sister.
Say that again.
You're on Article 21.
Article 21. The introduction or attempt to introduce outside a port open to commerce or custom house shall be punished. First degree by a fine of 1,000 to 5,000 placentas, and say that again.
Pesetas.
And an additional fine equal to 3 times the value of the imported merchandise. Second degree by imprisonment of from 3 months to 2 years, or else by only one of these two punishments.
So there's
Article-
punishments associated with the importation, the illegal importation of guns. Islam, continue, Article 22.
Article 22, the fraudulent sale, the receiving and peddling of merchandise prohibited by the present regulation shall be punished according to the penalties specified in Article 20.
Hold on, you skipping over something. The accomplice, where am I? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong, continue, sister, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Article 23, the accomplices in the offenses set forth in Article 20, 21, and 22 shall be liable to the same penalties as the principals. The elements determining complicity shall be adjured
Judged.
according to the laws of the court in charge of this case. So this sounds like conspiracy in our modern day, like, and if you transporting a gun over like state lines, that's a federal charge. That's kind of like how my brain is interpreting like this law in current now.
Right.
Article 24, when there is a good reason to support that a vessel anchored in the port open to commerce carry guns, ammunition, or other prohibited merchandise with a view of introducing the same into Morocco, the officers of the Sharif and Customs shall so inform the competent consular authority in order that the latter may carry out in company with a delegate of the Sharif and Customs such investigations, verifications, and searches as may be judged necessary.
What I thought, Article 24, when there is good reason to suppose that a vessel anchored in a port open to commerce carries guns, ammunition, or other prohibited merchandise with a view of introducing the same into Morocco. You can't be introducing this into Morocco, it's prohibited. The officers of the Sharifian Customs, the officers of the Sharifian Customs, not the officers of the American Customs, not the officers of the United States Customs. It's the officers of the Sharifian Customs. Such investigations, verification, or searches as may be, I'm sorry, I've jumped over something. Customs shall to inform the competent consular authority. So so the Sharifian Customs, the officers of the Sharifian Customs must inform the competent consular authority. Again, we're talking government. Again, we're talking government. Why are we saying that? Because it's describing the competent consular authority, which we're talking about consular court, who always makes the final decision, in order that the latter may carry out in company with a delegate of the Sharifian custom, such investigations, verifications, or searches as may be judged necessary. So you see, we're talking about Sharifian authorities, officers of the Sharifian customs, and then we're also talking about consular authority. Nothing is anything about Moorish American, MERS, Pan, none of the like. I have to keep making that point clear because we keep standing our square on identities that has nothing to do with what we need to force decolonization. We have to go back into the mindset of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. We have to come in the name of our mothers and fathers. If you are a child of a wealthy billionaire and that wealthy billionaire passes away and leaves you the will, you must come in his name in an attempt to make a proper claim to your father's estate. So you can't come in the name of some other person. You must come in the name of your mother or your father who left you the will. Islam, continue, sister. Article 25.
Article 25, in the case of the introduction or the attempted introduction by sea of prohibited merchandise outside of a port open to commerce, the Moorish Customs Authority may bring the vessel to the nearest port to be turned over to the consular authority, who shall have the right to seize it and continue such seizure until payment of the fines decreed. The vessel may, however, be released at any point of the trial, provided that the judicial proceedings shall not be impeded through thereby on the deposit made by the consular authority of the maximum of the fine, or else responsible bail accepted by the custom. This sounds like, wow, this sounds definitely like for New Jersey that that no bail policy in this sense, on how they'll hold you in this sense and release you, your vessel, your body,
Your vessel,
provided
right?
through
Now,
judicial proceedings and a deposit. For some,
exactly,
yeah, it's
exactly. I mean, they're using the treaty against us. Now, let's go back and examine some of the terms, right? In the case of the introduction or the attempted introduction by sea of prohibited merchandise outside of a port open to commerce, the Moorish customs authorities, the Moorish customs authorities.
so question, right? So when it says in case of the introduction attempted, introduction by sea of prohibited, it's not the highways and the byways considered like interstate commerce, like it's considered the seas? Like, is it not? We can interpret it that way.
You can interpret it that way because at the time, this is in 1906, vehicles, cars, automobiles wasn't in full swing like that. It was, things were being done through the seas. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship is worded the same way, as if everything is being done through the seas, by way of a ship, right? But this is 2022, so now the importation not only it's not limited to just the ships. You can import through planes. You can import through vehicles. So it all serves the same exact purpose from yesterday, which is 1906, till today, 2022. All right. So yes, you're absolutely correct. The sea can be considered the highways, but it says Moorish custom authorities though. It don't say black custom authorities. It don't say Moorish American authorities. It don't say Olmec authorities, right? It doesn't say anything about Kemet. It specifically says Moorish custom authorities may bring the vessel to the nearest port to be turned over to the consular authority, consular court. That means that you would have to have a state already in place.
Okay, so right, so consular authority, right? So I've been to like multiple counties and cities in New Jersey, and like there's a consular office that's in Camden in their courthouse municipal building, and it says that consular office or what have you. Would you consider that as being like in this treaty, that right there, like the authorities?
Nope, not at all. Consular authority deals with consular court from the Moroccan governments. Period.
So what about now in 2022? Because they have an office, and it makes
now and in the future. That office that says consular authority should be manned by Moors, Moroccan nationals, no one else. That's what the thing that France tried to do with the France versus United States case. They were trying to claim that they had consular authorities, and the ICJ judges rejected it, letting them know that those aren't not Moorish authority. Those are not Moorish officials who are manning the consular authorities. So there has to be Moors in there. And when I say Moors, I'm not talking about just NBC blacks. I'm talking Moors of a Moroccan state who are nationals. That's what a consular authority is, period. Consular, anything dealing with consular jurisdiction, consular courts, consular authority that's dealing with Moroccan law, Moroccan nationals.
So Islam, right? So remember how you mentioned like the formation of like a statehood, right? State government. So like at any point in time through documentation and, just, I guess, like proclaiming, would we be in contact with consular court, or not consular court, maybe, well, consular, in general.
What do you, I don't think I understand your question.
Okay, so, being that there's consular jurisdiction, and I was telling you that there's an office in Camden. At any point in time when taking over and correcting the seats that's in government, right? Would we be in direct contact with any type of consular in any territory?
Well, again, the only consular authority is coming from Moroccan government. So you wouldn't be in contact with another consular authority. You already, they're part of your system. What you'll be in contact with it's the foreign authorities, which in this case it will be the United States and any of its subsidiaries, whether it be the Homeland Security, whether it may be their local police force. It doesn't matter what it is. We'll be in direct contact with them as it relates to their government structure and how they have it set up. But they do not have consular authorities. We have the consular authorities. The consular authorities come from Morocco, not the United States.
Islam. So my last question, and I'll continue reading. Who is the consular for AMPAG?
Who is the consular?
Yeah.
No, we don't have a consular. What we do have is a consul general, and we have a chief judge of consular court. So the chief judge of consular court is Isaac El Mahdi Bey, and the consul general of the Mufti of consular court would be Laurent Watson Ali.
Are
And
they in the call now?
are they what?
Are they in the call now?
I'm not sure. I'm not looking. I'm sure one or two of them are. Actually, no, they're not even on. I'm surprised. They're usually on. But yeah, so yeah, our consular authority comes from our third branch, the third branch of our government, which is the judicial branch, which brings about consular court.
All right.
And a consular court, that office is being manned by the chief judge or the qazi, and also the mufti or the consul general. Islam?
Islam.
Article 26, please.
All right. So Article 26. The magazine
Okay,
may
the Moxin. And the Moxin is Moroccan Arabic that means state or government. So Moxin is literally saying the Moorish state or Moorish government. Okay, continue.
The Moxin may retain the confiscated merchandise either for its own use, if able to utilize it on condition that the subjects of the empire shall not be able to get possession of it, or it shall dispose of it abroad. The conveyances abroad. The conveyances of the same on shore may be confiscated and shall be sold for the profit of the Sharif and treasury.
Hold that thought. So you're like TIP. You're like Cliff Harris, and you're a 7-time felon. And you get caught with 20 rifles and 10 pistols. What does the United States authority do with those things?
They hold on to it, like
They
period,
hold on to it.
or use it.
They're doing it as the treaty says. So the treaty says that the Moxin may retain the confiscated merchandise either for its own use, if able to utilize it, on condition that the subjects of the empire shall not be able to get possession of it, or it shall dispose of it abroad. So we get to keep it, the Moxin, not the people, not the individuals, but the governments. They keep the guns, right, for our own use.
Yo, can you imagine like the whole thing, like when it said that they can get rid of it abroad, like so the guns, when they do the buybacks or take it off of people, that they really shipping it overseas? Cause you know, like we be sending guns to other countries and everything.
Not
So
we, it ain't no
now,
we.
Okay, well, you know what I mean, but I like the correction.
Yeah.
So, so it's just like, oh man, I can see that because it's
Well,
like a whole recycling mechanism.
well, it's blowing your head because it's like you never knew for once that we had this type of power. But the whole time that we've been marching and praying and begging, we had these full powers the whole time. We were just blocked from knowing that we had these powers the whole time, right? By our own. And so it also says that the conveyances of the same on shore may be confiscated and shall be sold for the profits of who? The Sharifian treasury, not the black treasury, not the Negro treasury, not the Moorish American treasury, not the Cherokee treasury, not the Indian treasury, not the Aboriginal treasury, the Sharifian treasury. Islam, all right. Article 27.
Islam.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, this brother man, I got a real quick observation. Wouldn't this kind of put a damper on the NRA activism on guns and rifles?
The NRA?
Yeah, the National Rifle
All day long.
Association.
All day long. Did they get permission from the Sharifian authorities for to do what they're doing?
Right. I
Islam.
yield.
Islam. Go ahead to 27.
Article 27, the sale of arms condemned by the Moorish government shall be prohibited throughout the Sharifian Empire.
The sale of arms condemned by who? Who condemned the sale of arms? The Moorish government. And it shall be prohibited where? Throughout the Sharifian Empire, which is the Moorish Empire. So I'm just really trying to point out what the parties of the contract. I'm simply trying to point out who has the authority here. It's not Moorish Americans. It's not African Americans. It's not Pan-Africans. It's not Hebrew Israelites. It's no one else. There's only one name that you must come. There's only one name that you can come in. The name of your ancestors. Moors. The Moorish government and the Sharifian Empire. Continue. Article 28.
Article 28, rewards taken out of the amount of the fines levied are to be given to the informants who have been instrumental in discovering forbidden merchandise and to the agents who have effected its seizure. Such rewards shall be assigned after deducting, if necessary, the cost of the trial, 1/3 to be distributed by the customs among the informant, 1/3 of the officers who seized the merchandise, and 1/3 of the Moroccan treasury.
You're saying to the. So 1/3 to the officers who seized the merchandise, and 1/3 to the Moroccan treasury. Continue. If the seizure.
All right.
It says if the seizure has been affected under
Yeah,
Moroccan.
my apologies, brother. It's just that as much as like I'll be reading like, state and like learning hours, like this resonates different when we start talking about like the commercial side, like the breaking down of how they are getting paid. So it's kind of like one of those light bulb moments, like this is the printing of money in a sense that got flipped. And it's just like the comprehension of that along with legislation, government. This is really wow.
Well,
If the seizure has been effected without the intervention of an informer, 1/2 of the fine shall go to the officer making the seizure, and the other half to the Sharifian treasury. Article.
Okay, hold on. So there you go. So let's go. Let's interpret it a little further. So rewards taken out of the amount of the fines levied are to be given to the informants. So where do we get agents and informants? Where did the FBI get that idea from? The Act of Algeciras. informants, espionage, agents, right? So rewards taken out of the amount of the fines levied are to be given to the informants who have been instrumental in discovering forbidden merchandise, and to the agents who have affected its seizure. Informants and agents. Informants and agents. Go ahead.
Islam, brother. I was watching a documentary on the feds, and what they was doing, I thought it was crazy, but I see it now. They were just following the treaty because they're confidential informants. If they give them a tip on a drug bust, the confidential informant can negotiate with the FBI agents on a percentage that they can get off of the bus.
Huh. Right. So there's, in other words, there's finance to be made as an agent.
Yo, and listen, Islam, I don't even mean to cut you off. Modern day right now, that's a lot of people who are studying our more history and it's flipping it for their financial gain. And I'm realizing that some of the people that have been given a high consideration, it's just like, yo, you did get a percentage and you are getting paid back on how many people you can pull back because you understand business. And it's just like, and you're using your knowledge as a weapon to just keep on re-enslaving your people. And I'm just like, dang, we out here talking about morale or what have you. And it's none of that that's going on. It's just like literally the greed of instruments and money. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Like
That's
for real, in real life.
That's the reason why they sell out, is for a piece of change, disregarding the entire vast estate, which is quite ridiculous. But it is what it is, nonetheless. So the informants and the agents, they get a cut, they get a percentage. 1/3 to be distributed by the customs among the informants, 1/3 to the officers who seize the merchandise, and 1/3 to the Moroccan treasury, not the Black treasury, and definitely not the US treasury. The Moroccan treasury, it goes to us, our governments. If the seizure has been effected without the intervention of an informer, 1/2 of the fine shall go to the officer making the seizure, and the other half goes to the Sharifian authority or the Sharifian treasury. Simple. This is how they are operating on this land against us, which is crazy. Trading places. So decolonization is equivalent to us trading places back again to put them under our governance and our jurisdiction. You may continue Article 29.
Article 29, the Moorish Customs Authority shall notify directly the diplomatic or consular agent of any violations of this regulation committed by those under the jurisdiction in order that the same may be prosecuted before the proper jurisdiction. Similar violations committed by the Moorish subject shall be submitted directly by the customs of the Sharifian authority. A delegate of the customs shall be assigned to follow the procedure of cases pending before the different jurisdictions.
The Moorish subjects, similar violations committed by Moorish subjects shall be submitted directly by the customs to the Sharifian authorities. So Moorish subjects are also prohibited from toting guns. So, Sister Jano, who are the Moorish subjects? Tell me who you think the Moorish subjects are.
Everybody who identifies like being a Moor.
No. A more correct answer is any Moor who is under the jurisdiction of the United States who have not consented to a Moroccan state government. So you have Moorish nationals.
But that does, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. What were you saying?
But that don't make sense. How is it not everyone who considers themselves a Moor considered a subject under that? When you look at the United States formation and everybody that's a citizen that's acclimated to that is a subject to the corporation and got to deal with all of the bullshit. This is how I got flipped on it. So why
Okay.
wouldn't it be the Moors?
Let's watch the language first and foremost. But let's go back here. Excuse me. Let me go back here so you can understand what a Moorish subject is. Okay. So this right here is an expatriation document by Hoffman Phillip. Let me go up. If you see here, it says Mr. Phillips chargé d'affaires to Mr. Root, Secretary of State, August 3rd, 1906. Remember you was asking about the legation? This was done in the American legation at Tangier, August 3rd, 1906. And so it's Mr. Hoffman Phillips speaking to the Secretary General or the Secretary of State, Mr. Root. And it states, and I can go over this because it's short and it's quick. So let's go over it real quick. Keeping in mind, we've already went over this several times, but I don't think you were present when we went over this. So now let's explain what a Moorish subject is. There are, strictly speaking, no Moroccan laws relating to citizenship of Moorish subjects in Morocco. The fundamental laws of this non-Christian country are based entirely upon the Islamic code, no part of which treats of the subject of citizenship. There are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries and the Moorish Empire, one of which we're going over, which is the Treaty of Madrid. All those other signatory powers are Christian countries, and they are in treaty with us, the Moorish Empire, by means of which citizenship in this country is defined. But as I understand from the above acknowledged instructions, that it is not the desire of the department to call for a report upon such lines. I will therefore confine these remarks to general conditions existing which may possibly be of some use in connection with the information desired. 1. Citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso jure as Moorish subjects. So what that's saying is that if you are in Morocco and you cannot prove your foreign citizenship or protection to another state, that makes you a Moorish subject. Why are you a Moorish subject? Because you're subjugated under the American jurisdiction and the laws of America. That's the reason why you're a Moorish subject. That's what makes you a Moorish subject. Your only other option is to do what Article 15 tells you to do, which is reaffirmed by Hoffman Phillip. But before we go there, let's read this second paragraph, this last paragraph. Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized in or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire, i.e. the United States of America. It was established by the Convention of Madrid, concluded July 3rd, 1880, as follows. So this is what you're supposed to do as a Moroccan, if you want to take on the national identity of a Moroccan national. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country and who shall return to Morocco shall, after having remained for a length of time equal to that which shall have been regularly necessary for him to obtain such naturalization, choose between entire submission to the laws of the empire and the obligation to quit Morocco, unless it shall be proved that his naturalization in a foreign country was obtained with the consent of the government of Morocco, which that's not what happened. Now, if you don't, this is paragraph 1. If you don't choose between entire submission, if you don't choose Morocco over America or any other foreign country, then paragraph 2 is what's going to happen to you. So this is paragraph 2. Foreign naturalization heretofore acquired by subjects of Morocco, according to the rules established by the laws of each country, i.e. the United States, shall be continued to them as regards all its effects without any restriction. So all the laws of the United States can continue upon the Moorish subjects in regards all its effects without any restrictions. So all the laws of the United States will apply to you as a Moorish subject without any restrictions if you don't choose between the entire submission of the empire and consent to a Moroccan government to become a Moroccan national or establish a government if there's not one in place. So I use this document to answer your question. You asked, what is a Moorish subject? A Moorish subject is a Negro, Black, or colored person who has remained under the jurisdiction of the United States. Conversely, the contrast to that would be a Moroccan national. A Moroccan national is one who has taken the allegiance of a Moroccan state and is under the protection, he can prove, like he said up here, he can prove his and where's it at? Where is it at? Citizens of Morocco, okay. That all persons residing in Morocco cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso moral subjects. So us, the nationals of AMPAG, New Mecca, Maru, and Dimti, these are 5 different states. All the nationals can prove protection from their state, which then makes them Moroccan nationals and no longer a Moorish subject. Does that answer your question? And do you understand what I'm saying? Do I need to go over it a little bit more clearer?
Islam, you made it very clear.
Islam. So that's what a Moorish subject is. A Moorish subject is a Moor who is under the jurisdiction of the United States, and anyone who is under the jurisdiction of the United States fall under the Moroccan laws of our Sharifian authority. So it says here, similarly, violations committed by Moorish subjects, i.e., subjugated Moors under the jurisdiction of any other foreign country, specifically in our case, the United States, shall be submitted directly by the customs to the Sharifian authority. A delegate of the customs shall be assigned to follow the procedures of cases pending before the different jurisdictions. So Moorish subjects got to pay taxes. Moorish subjects. Now, don't get me wrong. Even Moroccan nationals got to pay taxes, but there's different brackets to that, right? So it is incumbent upon a Moorish subject or a Negro, Black, and colored person to come back home to Morocco, because right now they are stranded and lost at sea in the American jurisdiction. Islam? Oh, go ahead. All right, Article 30, go ahead. That's the final article.
Article 30, in the region bordering on Algeria, the enforcement of the regulations on the contraband of arms shall be the exclusive concern of France and Morocco. Similarly, the enforcement of the regulation on the contraband of arms in the Rif and in general in the regions bordering on the Spanish possessions shall be the exclusive concern of Spain and Morocco.
And that's Article 30. That's chapter 2. That's the end of the reading for chapter 2. We're going to leave it there. We'll pick up to next week on chapter 3. So Article 2 was what? Let's go back and look at what Article 2 was. It was pretty long too. So it is the regulation concerning the detection and repression of the contraband of arms. Regulations concerning the detection and repression of the contraband of arms. So this article or this chapter is giving us the authority over the arms of war, guns, etc., which means we have the ultimate power and authority to shut down Russia if we needed to. Why am I saying Russia? Because Russia is one of the signatory powers to this particular treaty. We can shut down any other country who wants to use war as a means, or should I say use of force, as a means to force themselves upon indigenous peoples. This is where the Moors come in with the Act of Algeciras to shut it all down. You have all the authority, but we have been blocked and kept away from this information, allowing the colonists to run amok in Morocco and do as they see fit, as they see please, as they see fit, as they please, by lining the pockets of some of our teachers and some of our so-called leaders. Who are they? I'll tell you some of them. Al Sharpton, Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson,
Jackson.
grand governors and the super grand governors and the super grand sheiks, and all these high-level titles and positions within the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Not to mention the politicians, yes?
The Black politicians. They have all taken an oath to keep this a secret. And while at the same time trying to tell us that the secret is the Illuminati taking over the world, the New World Order, and the death camps and the concentration camps and all this stuff, that no. It has nothing to do with that. It has all to do with international law and our ability to make a proper claim in order to regain our authority, our sovereign authority at home on our land called Morocco. Islam. With that, I want to yield the floor for any other questions. Sister Thea, you had a question that you posed on the text message. I wanted you to ask me that question in public here so that we can answer that question for everyone who may have that same exact question. So I yield the floor for anyone with comments, concerns. Go ahead, Miss Mother Thea, with your
Hi,
question.
Islam. Yeah, I was just concerned about the average person or the Moorish subjects as we are right now without getting in our state to set up ourselves properly. I guess after you have already established yourself as under your state and have become a national under your Moroccan government, how does working a job? Of course, you won't be in the system as it is. Is there anything that will be set up? So, as far as working in the Moroccan government, and I'm sure a paycheck I don't know how it's going to be structured, but just concerned about the setting up of that and, working under the state and working if there's any business opportunities to in the Moroccan government. How will that be monitored?
Well, let's see. Let me see if I clearly understand your question, clarify your question here. So are you speaking, when you say, for example, jobs, are you speaking from the perspective of working, like, let's say when you come into the state, you already had a job with, let's say, IBM. Could you continue working with IBM while you become a national? Is that what you're asking? Like you
Yes,
continue
yeah,
your
well,
employment wherever?
or maybe equivalent, something equivalent, or even just a job. It doesn't matter being working with IBM, but just working in the government and getting a paycheck, so to
Well,
speak.
that's what I want to clarify. When you say working in the government, are you talking about working in the United States government? Or are you talking about working within the Moroccan government?
The Moroccan government, because
Okay.
you would not be in the United States. You won't be part of that anymore. So you'll be part
Okay.
of your government. Yes.
Okay. Let me answer your question. You working within the government according to our constitution as an official. There's no pay. You don't get paid to work in this government. We're working for free. So we would need to have another source of income outside of the government, meaning then that we will be working within the United States. Many of our nationals, part of the holdup is that we're working within the United States. We're working our jobs that we've already had previously or whatever. Why is it like that? Okay. For one, you can definitely work a job through the United States or in the United States jurisdiction while maintaining your allegiance and your national status as a Moroccan national within your Moroccan government. You can certainly do that. This is where the national trust comes in, because with the national trust, you're transferring your strawman name, so-called strawman name, right? Your ens legis or your nom de guerre, you transfer it into your national trust for further protection so that you may continue to utilize that shell company on your behalf. We have to remember that the so-called strawman, ens legis or nom de guerre, whatever, your all caps name, that is a shell company that you are doing business as. So to give you an example, by you utilizing the name, you have Kendrick Bay and you got Kendrick Johnson. Kendrick Johnson is your nom de guerre, your strawman name, and Kendrick Bay is your free appellation that belongs to a free human, a living being, a human being, right? And so in order for you to participate in commerce with the United States, you need you as a natural person cannot interface with a corporation, i.e. the United States and all its subsidiaries. That's a diversity of citizenship. So in order to make it proper, in order to make it work properly, you would need a corporation to interface with the other corporation, which is the United States, on behalf of you, the natural breathing person. This is where your nom de guerre name comes in, i.e. your Kendrick Johnson. Kendrick Johnson is doing, or should I say Kendrick Bay is doing business as Kendrick Johnson within the United States. But your Kendrick Johnson is under protection by the Moorish state government, meaning that the United States can no longer encumber your nom de guerre or your all caps name. It's now under your authority, or should I say, it's under your control under the authority of the state. So that's what allows you to continue doing business, whether it be working for someone or operating your corporation. Can someone please mute their mics? I don't, there's something going on. That's what allows you to interface with the United States and continue commerce. Your nom de guerre, your straw man, is your access point to the matrix. Similar to when you watch the movie, they plug something in the back of your head that brings you into the matrix. Well, that instrument would be your nom de guerre name, your all caps straw man name that's on the birth certificate. Now, further, I think I answered that side of the question. The other part of the question is that I need to clarify is, why is it that Moors or the nationals, or should I say really the officials of the state, are working for free? Okay. It's a temporary situation. What we're doing is going through the process of checking the boxes. So in the beginning of the call, in the beginning of this particular class, as we were going over the Act of Algeciras, in the preamble, we spoke about the triple principle: sovereignty and independence, integrity of domains, economic liberty without any inequality. That's the triple principles, which is 3 different boxes that need to be checked. And within each one of those boxes, there's several sub boxes within each one of those boxes. So you have sovereignty and independence, which is the establishment of your state through your ratified, deposited, and promulgated constitution. That's the first step. The second step now is integrity of domains. That's where most of us are, that's where all of us are at this point. Integrity of domain deals with your Moroccan laws, your legislation that you're enacting. If you were to go on our website and you click on laws, you would see our legislation. It also deals with your nationality paperwork, your state ID, the whole 9. The solidification or the solidifying of your domains, the integrity of your domains, the control of your territory. And the only way to control and manage your territory is through is through your laws. After that, we go into economic, look at the word, economic liberty without any inequality, which, by the way, brings us to chapter 3 and chapter 4. Chapter 3 is the act of concession for a state bank, and chapter 4 deals with the taxation and the creation of new revenues. What does economic liberty without any inequality deals with? Decolonization, meaning that we take back control of the infrastructure, we take back control of the system, we take back control of the public services and public works. In doing so, now we put ourselves in a position where the foreign United States must pay us taxes, must pay us the tributes, must pay us rent as the tenants that they are. When we're talking about those payments, we're talking about 2 to 3 comma payments, millions, if not billions of dollars. And that amount of money gets distributed by the state accordingly, 60% to 40%. 60% goes to the state, the government, for its management and operations, and 40% gets distributed evenly across the board to all the nationals. So if let's say, and by the way, it's reoccurring, it's not a one-time check, it's an ongoing check, residual income. So that may be every quarter, it may be monthly, it may be yearly. We don't know what that looks like at this point, but we know that it's coming. So if you get $100 million, 60 million goes to the state, 40 million gets distributed evenly across the board to all the nationals. So if you have 40 nationals and you got $40 million, each national get what, $1 million? That's the reason why currently we're not getting paid for the works that we're doing within our government as officials. That payment comes later on as we continue checking the boxes and remain on the yellow brick road to establish economic liberty without any inequality. So it's a sequential order. It's a certain process that we must undertake, and nothing will happen overnight. You may even ask Jeff Bezos. Amazon did not happen overnight. It took him quite some time before Amazon became what Amazon is today. As far as we're concerned, it's not going to take us 10 years. 2 years max, economic liberty without any inequality will be solidified in Morocco, which means all of our nationals of our states will become the millionaires that they've always been, billionaires possibly. We are trust fund babies. We are the recipient. We are the recipients of the greatest estate the world has known. We are the richest people on this planet. And the only way to make the proper claim to gain the finances that's owed to us is through our state governments. And so part of the stipulation is we're going to have to do this thing for free until we get to the point to where we may now bring the United States to their knees and start paying their taxes as they should. Did that answer your question?
Islam, yes.
Okay, Islam.
Well said, Wazir. Well said.
Thank you, good brother. Any other questions?
Islam, well said, brother. Yes, sir.
I see Doc L has his hand up. I have a question after him.
Yes.
Yes, Islam to everyone. First time on the call, certainly appreciate information and education. Just a question regarding the authentication and apostille of the.
Hold on, brother. Hold on, brother. Hold on. Time out.
That,
hold on 1 second. Hold on. Could you adjust your phone or something? You got a bad connection there.
I apologize. I apologize for that. Can you hear?
Yes, but you sound robotic. You sound like a robot a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, what about now? I may have to type it in. But what about
I
now?
hate for you to do that. I really would prefer for you to express yourself verbally. Is there any way we can kind of like switch positions or something? I don't know what it is, but I would like to hear you speak on it rather than type it.
Okay, I'll go on. I'm actually on the cell phone. I'll go to the PC and hook up my speaker.
Okay.
And
Well, while you do
way,
that, I'll have the sister ask for questions. Go ahead, sister.
All right, when you were talking about the nom de guerre and the Moorish appellation and talking about doing business as, what came to my mind was United States and United States of America. And we have always said that that's what basically what they are doing. And it's fraud on their part. How does that correlate? Because it seems like it's the same thing in a way. Could you expand on that, please?
Are you talking about the combination of the United States of America and the United States as it relates to your nom de guerre and your free national name?
Yes. How is that different? How is it not fraud with us, but it's fraud with them?
Well, what do you mean it's not for us? And
Well, what I'm saying is when you said we would still have our free national appellation under whatever bay, and Johnson would be the nom de guerre that they were doing business as, and we continue doing business like that because they are a corporation. How does that play out? Because when you said that, I'm thinking, wait a minute, isn't that the same thing the United States is doing? Because 1 minute they're United States, the next thing you know, when they're in international court or anything like that, they become the United States of America.
Right. Yeah, similar, but not exactly the same. The United States of America, what it is that the United States of America is the name on the contract
Mm-hmm.
internationally. So in order for them to continue their full powers internationally, they must address themselves as the United States of America. But they're still an international organization nonetheless.
Ah, that's the point. That would be the clincher you're referring to. That makes it fraud because they are not a state, they are an international organization. Is that right?
That's right, and they're operating as an attorney on behalf of the United States, the United States of America, I should say, because the United States of America is in a dead grave, in a shallow grave. They can't speak for themselves. So who speaks on behalf of the United States of America? The United States. They are like an attorney on behalf of the United States of America, right? So it's not so much so a matter of the United States doing business as the United States of America or vice versa, as it would in our case. It's more so dealing with the usurpation of the United States of America, in which the United States International Organization is operating on behalf of the United States of America. Since the United States of America is in a shallow grave and can't speak for themselves, they don't have 3 branches of government. Whereas the Kendrick Johnson versus the Kendrick Bay conversation deals with our commerce, our commercial activity. Because see, without the state government, you're operating as a dead corpse nonetheless. But when you establish your state government, you become now a Moroccan national, which is a free, living, breathing human being. And so a free, living, breathing human being cannot interface with a corporation. This is why the United States did us justice. They did us a favor by establishing our corporate names. Because now we don't have to establish that. It's already been established. We've been using it all our lives, right? So now what happens is Kendrick Bay, the free national human being who is under the jurisdiction and the protections of a Moroccan state, may still continue to do or partake in commerce within the United States through their Kendrick Johnson, their shell company, their DBA. So Kendrick Bay, the living, breathing human being, is doing business in the United States as Kendrick Johnson. And because remember, it's a transmitting utility. So all the benefits that the straw man gets, Kendrick Johnson, gets transmitted back to who? Kendrick Bay, the living, breathing human being. So it's not the same as what the United States is doing. They're operating in fraud and corruption by operating as the United States, the corporate entity on behalf of the United States of America, the de jure republic. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Islam. All right, good brother. Have you connected your microphone or your speakers? Are you there, Brother Kirk? You might still be getting his stuff together. I really wanted to hear his question. Well, while he gets his stuff together, anyone else who may have a question may go ahead and ask it or make comments or whatever. I yield the floor. Okay, so the Act of Algeciras.
I have another question. I'm sorry, it just came to my mind.
Okay.
When you were talking about taxes previously and us, collecting and on all of that, will those taxes be paid in silver and gold, or will they be paid in Federal Reserve notes, or does it matter?
It will more than likely initially will be paid in Federal Reserve notes until we see economic liberty without any inequality has meant several boxes within that box. And so we have to go through the process of checking the rest of those boxes within economic liberty and without any inequality. One of which is the reposit, not deposit, but reposit of our gold that's being held at the Vatican. but really they're not the United Nations. See, our stuff is being held in trust.
Uh-huh.
Our gold is being held in trust, and one of the persons, right? The persons of trust is the United Nations, include even the United States. So all
what
our
you're
gold,
saying is, so I get that. I get what you're saying there. So when you mentioned the triple principle and you talk about the first principle has a set of boxes. So now the economic equality without any inequality, it has another set of boxes. And
that's right.
the third principle also has a set of boxes. Is that right?
Each one has several sets of boxes. That's
All
correct.
right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So as you went through, you just completed sovereignty and independence. There were several boxes, wasn't there? There was the inauguration. There was the
Constitution, the statehood. Yep.
right. There was the what do you call that? The elections.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and so that there's several boxes that needs to be checked to establish your sovereignty and independence.
Mm-hmm.
And then integrity of domain has several boxes as well. That's your essential treaties. That's your Moroccan laws. That's your national trust. That's your state ID and your nationality paperwork, etc. Economic integrity, without any inequality has those boxes as well. So initially, yes, we'll be getting our payments in Federal Reserve notes as we continue checking the boxes to the point to where now all our gold is now reposited back into the hands of our competent authority, which would be our states. And then also through those means, we can now establish the State Bank of Morocco. And then from that point now, we can start printing our own money backed by gold. So it's still a process, even within economic liberty, without any inequality.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Islam. And that's the power of the Act of Algeciras. It's giving us everything back: our gold, our banks. You got control of the taxation and the creation of new revenues. We can create new revenues. It's giving us the authority to create new revenues. The chapter we just completed, the repression of guns and contraband arms and stuff, that has the creation of new revenues, right? Based on the confiscation and the fines associated with those confiscations, right? 1/3 goes to the informant, the other third goes to the arresting officer, and another third goes to the Moorish treasury. And if there wasn't an informant involved in the process, then the seizing authority that seized the guns, they get half the fine, and then the Moorish treasury get the other half of the fine. So that's why Prophet Noble Ali said, "Children, you are plainly rich." I mean, come on. The Prophet was hanging out with international jurists. He brought a flag. That's an international demonstration, right? He went to the Pan American Conference. That's an international demonstration. The Prophet was ahead of his time, which is why he was a prophet. The Act of Algeciras came out in 1906. Prophet Noble Ali was 20 years old when that first came out. Nobody on planet Earth, nobody, I mean, not even Jesus can come down on his chariot and tell me that Prophet Noble Ali wasn't aware of the Act of Algeciras. No one can tell me that. Prophet Noble Ali was definitely aware of the Act of Algeciras. Right? The good brother that wrote the book, The Passing of the Sharifian Empire, how he knows and the Prophet don't know. All these article clippings that I showed you all. Let's go back to it. You got all these newspaper clippings, I should say, not articles, but newspaper clippings, right? You see what it says here in the search bar? Act of Algeciras triple principles. So when you come down here, all these newspapers, 1908, right? 1906, 1912, 1911, July 7th, 1906, September 22nd, 1911. All these newspaper articles talking about the Act of Algeciras. Do you not think that the Prophet read the newspapers? Come on, man. Prophet knew about the Act of Algeciras. Everybody that's in the know about the Act of Algeciras. They know about the Treaty of Madrid. They know about the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. The only people that don't know about these international documents are the people who are running around, marching, and praying, begging for legislation to keep them from being persecuted by the US authorities. Well, the whole time, the power of the pen had been in their hands. But who kept us away from it? The leader guys, your Al Sharptons, your Farrakhan's, your Nation of Islam groups, your Elijah Muhammad, and it's not limited to them. Also, fez wearing Moors out of the temple. Your grand governors, your supreme grand this, your supreme grand that. Your Moorish American Society of Philadelphia Moors, who were partaking in the absorption and the speedy Americanization of foreign Moors, or should I say former Moors. The Moorish American Society of Philadelphia. So if they took part in that process, imagine what else they took part in that was against our best interest. Prophet Noble Ali said, be careful, Moors, it will be yours, you'll be your own, and fezzes and turbans who will take you back into slavery. It was our own who kept us away from this information. To the point now where finally in 2022, really 2021, which just started with AMPAG, that we now finally start seeing the light. And what's really the deal that as far as our authority and our salvation, stepping out of the cares of the world, carrying the mother, stepping onto the rock of salvation, cares of the world, amity, not amity, but admiralty law, being lost at sea, buried in a shallow grave. That's the cares of the world. American jurisdiction. Prophet Noble Ali was stepping onto the rock of salvation, Morocco. Can't spell rock without Morocco. Can't spell more without Morocco. While carrying the mother with humanity written on her womb, letting us know that humanity, the fall of humanity is the fall of the Moabites, of our mother, the legislator, the one who brings life through her stargate. She has a covenant with the Most High, with Allah, to bring life on earth. She is the cradle of humanity. All peoples on planet Earth came through her womb. Regardless as to whether it was a Yaqub experiment or not, it doesn't matter. All peoples came through her womb. All people on planet Earth got our blood in them. We don't have nobody else's blood in us. We are the firstborn. Esau, who gave up his estate to Jacob. And Jacob is who's ruling currently, but temporarily, until Esau wakes up to his divinity and makes the proper claim. And Esau is doing that now, baby. And Jacob don't like that. No, he don't. That's why Nancy Pelosi said, you know what, let me get the hell up on out of here, because they coming after me as well. They know that we're coming because we have to deposit and promulgate our documents with the United Nations, and the promulgation does not end with the United Nations. We promulgate it with the United States and the state of whatever territory we have reclaimed. Islam, is Brother Nasir on yet? Because he was supposed to go over a document, and maybe we would have to wait till next Wednesday. If he's not on, that's fine. Continue. I yield the floor for anyone who may have any questions.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Yes. Brother El Khalid. The questions I was going to address was first one, the application of COLB. Is it a necessary process still for the Moroccan state protocol? And the second one would be the passport for international travel. Islam.
Try to repeat that question again. I'm not sure if you're the same brother that had the problems earlier with the connection, but your connection is kind of messed up a little bit. Could you please repeat that?
Okay, what about now?
Yeah, you sound better.
Okay. The first question was the authentication of COLB, the necessary part of the multi-state protocol. And the second question was the
Hold on, before we go on to the second question, let's take it one step at a time.
Alrighty.
I need to listen carefully because there's something choppy about your connection. You said something about TLD.
No, the certificate of live birth is that having it apostilled and authenticated. There's a lot of more words that are going back and forth.
He sounds like he got a loose wire.
Yeah, it's what about now?
Yeah,
This technology, yeah.
I think you sound better now until you get to talking, but let's try it again.
Okay, the authentication of the certificate of live birth, is that also a part of that protocol? There are more going back and forth with that procedure.
Does anyone else able to decipher what he's saying?
Certificate of live birth.
You mentioned, I am hearing something about a library.
A certificate of live birth.
Oh, certificate of live birth. Okay, what about the certificate of live birth?
Does it fit in the more state protocol?
Yes.
Authenticated and apostilled.
Yes. We establish our own state certificate of live birth. Everything has to be done in like manner. The prophet said that he was leaving the Europeans here long enough to teach us how to run a government. So if we look at the United States, like for example, if you were to we went over a case called United States of America, or the United States really, versus Rodney Burton. And in it, he was trying to claim his sovereignty as a Moor. But the judges of the Supreme Court were saying, or it wasn't a Supreme Court, it was a district court. They were saying that his verbal argument lacks merit because he doesn't have any documents to prove his position that he's presenting verbally. And they came and they brought their exhibits and their evidence to prove him to be who they say he is, whereas he's trying to contest that he's not who they say he is. Well, what did they bring into court? They brought in his driver's license and basically all his documents that he's ever had as a Moorish subject. His driver's license and pictures, social security cards. They even brought in his probation officer to point him out to prove that he was Rodney Burton. Well, he was trying to say that he's not Rodney Burton, that he is Rodney Burton Bay, and that Rodney Burton is a nom de guerre, all caps name. But the problem is that he did not have his emanating documents to support his position. And it needs to be done in like manner. So when the United States brought in his ID, his driver's license as Exhibit A, well, his Exhibit A should have been his state ID that was issued to him by his government. So they bring in the birth certificate. Well, he can bring in his certificate of live birth from his state government, right? They bring in, let's see what else. Whatever else they bring in, we got to have the same. It's like manner. They bring in the probation officer to point him out as Rodney Burton. Well, he brings in his consul general to say, no, he is Rodney Burton Bay. Everything has to be done in like manner, and we got to have our own emanating documents to prove our verbal position. And so, yes, it was a long answer. The answer is yes, we do have our own state ID. We have our own certificate of live birth. We have all the documents necessary to prove our allegiance to our Moroccan state government, which proves that we're outside the jurisdiction of the United States, which also further prove our protection from a foreign state. And that's what's necessary to not have that's what's necessary for the United States or America to not have jurisdiction over you as a Moorish subject, because now you're a Moroccan national. I don't know if I answered the question, but that was a long answer, just trying to get to the point.
Islam. The other one I had was the passport. Would that apply? Would be same way, having our own passport as opposed to going through the U.S. Department.
Currently, we don't have our own passport, but yes, we will be working on getting our own passport, our own tags, driver's license, the whole nine. And it's all in sequential order. It's all a step-by-step process. Nothing happens overnight. So to answer your questions, yes, we definitely will have our own Moroccan passport in due time.
Islam.
That's for sure.
Islam, can you hear me?
Excellent questions. Yes, sir, we could hear you, Brother Amir.
I thought I heard him ask, do we authenticate in apostille our birth certificates? And
no.
I want to make sure that, no, we don't. Do not do that.
No, we don't do that. I don't know if that was part of the question, but just to make that point clear, I'm glad you brought that up, good brother Wazir. No, we don't do any of that. We just transfer the birth certificate, the name that belongs that's on the birth certificate, and all your other property gets transferred into the national trust, giving it protections from the United States jurisdiction.
Okay, yeah, that was the first question. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we don't. Yeah, we don't authenticate our birth. No, sir. That's the old paradigm thinking. That's the old UCC thing. We're dealing with Moorish treaties and international law. So no, we don't do that. We create our own certificate of live birth. But the old certificate of live birth, like, remember, the prophet said, "Don't throw away your name." So we're not throwing it away. We're bringing it under protection into the national trust. And because, again, remember, those names, that the all caps name is worth millions, if not billions of dollars. Why would you throw that away? You got to take control of it. And you don't take control of it through no UCCs. You take control of it through your state government under Moroccan treaties.
Islam.
And I will also say, doing processes like that is like the fastest way to get you on a domestic terrorist list, because understand you're sending it to your territory, and these are people that work a 9 to 5 that are filing documentation upon being received, and that's not where you want to be. And I yield the floor.
That's right, sister. It's a good way to get you on that list, and we want to stay off that list. Another good way to get on that list is promoting arms. You don't believe me? Ask Jamal and ask Lamont Ill. Right? Lamont Ill was all good till he started promoting guns. Notice that. Nobody didn't bother him when he was just talking about pulling them out and enforce the Constitution, get them out of jail, enforce the Constitution, get them out of jail. Now it's enforce the Constitution, get them out of jail, and let's go to the gun range.
Yeah, gun day Sunday.
Exactly. That's what got him jacked up was the guns, because it's going against the Anti-Terrorism Act. They was waiting on that. They didn't even waste no time with that. They snatched them up really quick.
Absolutely.
As soon as he started getting on with that, they got him. Keeping in mind that he spent, I don't know how many years doing the other stuff without the guns, right? And he was just fine. As soon as he started talking guns, they snatched him up.
Wow.
in a rough manner too, with an ambush. Snatched him up, threw him on the ground, and he's on the ground screaming out, "I'm a consul general of Morocco." No, you're not. No, you're not. Who appointed? Who's the head of state that appointed you as the consul general? So, for example, our consul general was appointed by me. So he can point. So if he was to get snatched up, he can point out. He can call out my name. Well, I was appointed by our head of state, the Wazir al-Rays, or the prime minister. Lamont couldn't do that because he was self-appointed. And here we are with the self-appointed titles and the self-appointed processes. You cannot have a standalone court. Your court must be sanctioned by the state. It comes through your third branch of government, which is the judicial branch. The judicial branch gives birth to the existence of your consular court, not your verbal decree. Not just by simply saying, "Oh, this is consular court," which, by the way, on Dr. G, he himself said that consular court is not a public service, it's a private service, which is why we got to charge what we charge so that we can maintain the operation. Really? That's commerce.
Wow.
Where on planet Earth is a court public or private services? Your court are public services, man.
Yeah, even Russell J. Gould had put on the White House or in D.C. Let's see, court-martialing George Bush when his venue.
What about, did you say, what did you say about George Bush and his venue?
No, I was saying Russell died. Same thing with Russell J. Gould, who had court-martialed. Yeah, and had the court on the White House. I'm from the obelisk.
Exactly. It's not there. You cannot, come on. Okay. Let's look at it this way. If we are the competent authority of Morocco, that means that any and all foreign countries that reside in Morocco are subjects to Moroccan law. Well, according to the Act of Algeciras, the subjects of our Moroccan laws are not allowed to carry guns. Now, without no permission. Well, conversely, considering that Morocco has acquiesced and the United States was the only other competent authority left by default, guess who can't have guns? Moorish subject.
Wow.
Same thing.
Wow.
They just flipped it on us, bro. Trading places, Eddie Murphy. They traded places with us. So again, decolonization equals trading places back again. So whatever Jacob, right? You know how the Jews, they just sit around in the lap of luxury, all the nicest, most luxurious 5-star hotels, mansions, yachts. They're sitting in our seat. That's where we're supposed to be. Managing the operations of the United States as it relates to the infrastructure. That's one of the reasons why we don't really want for them to leave. Like a lot of Moors are saying, decolonization equals getting them off our land. Okay, if we get them off our land, then who's going to manage and operate the infrastructure that they have been operating for the past 200 years? Who's going to do that?
In that movie, Trading Places, I thought it was interesting when you had mentioned that. And when you were talking about when we actually are assuming our power and doing everything we're supposed to be doing according to the Act of Algeciras, and we want them to be able to prosper and all of that. In the movie Trading Places, when Eddie Murphy made the two rich guys bums or poor, what did he do? He turned around and gave them, at the end of the movie, gave them some money so they could start to, not be so poor anymore.
You mixing up the movies. I know what you're saying.
I'm mixing up the movies.
Yeah, you're mixing up the movies.
No, they
No,
stayed for.
you're right. When Eddie Murphy took him out, him and the other guy that he traded places with,
Yeah.
okay, it was Coming to America when he was because remember, in Coming to America, he was the king of Zamunda or the prince of Zamunda. And remember, he came to America to meet his bride, and he was walking the beach with the sister. And as he was walking the beach with the sister, he walked past a tent. It was two white men in the tent. Those were the two white guys from the Trading Places. He gave them some money. He was
And he said, we're back.
like,
Remember?
we're back. Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
okay. I thought that was a Trading Places movie. All right.
Yeah, that was the next scene in Coming to America.
Oh, all right.
But it still makes the same point.
Yeah.
It was funny too. He was like, Rudolph, or whatever his name is, Rudolph, we're back. Yeah, exactly. It's the power. There you go. The Moors.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ones who put them on game. We are the ones who put them where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the same way we had the power to put them where they're at, we have the power to take them out of there. Right? But again, we want them to be exactly as the charter refers to them as. What does the charter refer to them as, Brother Amir? Supervisors and administrators, right?
Right, you're correct.
Correct, right? So that's what they'll be, supervisors, administrators of our vast estate. And we govern them. We supervise them, we oversee them, make sure that the taxes are being transferred over to the proper party, not the Queen of England or the King, and damn sure not the Pope. It goes to us. So we sit up in the highest of offices, managing the entire operation. And those who are sitting in the highest of offices, which is Jacob, the bankers, they must step down. That's who we're trading places with, is Jacob. They're the ones who are behind the scenes in the highest of offices, managing the whole operation, and the United States is working on their behalf. The 7 board members of the Federal Reserve, who are controlling all of the United States operations, that's us. They use the pyramid as their symbol. That's our symbol. That's our great seal for the Moroccan Empire. Trading places is decolonization, not necessarily getting rid of them. It's trading places, going into the highest of offices and managing the entire operation while overseeing the colonists, making sure that our payments are being paid correctly to the proper persons, which is our Moroccan governments. And the Qadi must be present at all real estate closings to satisfy himself in the validity of the transaction in the conformity with Moroccan or Mohammedan law. That's in the Act of Algeciras. We'll get to that when we get to it. That's 5. Yeah, Article 5 or Article 4. The creation of new revenues and taxation. Let's go back to it. Yep, that would be chapter 4. Should be chapter 4. Islam, I yield the floor. Anyone, any other questions before we close out? We'll be closing out in a few minutes.
I have no questions, but I have enjoyed this meeting.
Islam, thank you. So did I. I appreciate everyone who was in attendance.
Islam, just one question. How can one from Missouri, Georgia, become established? Because there is no platform in this state.
I don't know what's the problem with your phone. Say you said something about Missouri.
No, I'm saying how can one participate And since you're in Georgia and in Missouri,
Okay.
to
All right.
move forward.
You would need to establish your state government in Missouri. And I
Okay.
believe Mother Athena, I believe she also posed that question via text message. If you're outside of the jurisdiction of either state, whether it be Maru, whether it be Dempsey, which is Texas, Maru is Indiana, Ante, Georgia, which is us here in Georgia, Colorado, Oregon. If you're outside of those territories, then you would need to establish your state government in that particular territory that you're in. So if you're in Missouri, I don't believe there's a state government there. You'd have to establish one there. And we're here to assist you in that process. And we're here to assist you for free, right? The only charge to you is your effort and your time to make it happen. We don't charge around here. Nationality is free.
Islam.
We don't sell packages. We don't sell nothing.
I just listened to people over the years, paid thousands, hundreds of thousands. I mean, just or even the fundamental things.
Mm-hmm. They want to charge for everything.
Like
everything. The Monel, you charge for everything. $5,000 for a mortgage, whatever.
No, it was 10,000.
Okay.
10,000.
So now look at that.
Get himself out.
Look how nonsensical that is. I don't believe there's nobody on planet Earth. There's certainly nobody in America that are, you know, the mortgage companies are not going to let you go into a $10,000 default. You know, you'll be, if your mortgage is, let's say, $1,200 a month, you know, they allow 3 months to go by, you're still looking at around 4,000, close to 4,000. So if you owe 4,000 to the bank in default, why would you add 6,000 to that and make it $10,000 to pay some ipso Morris subject for assistance, when if you got $10,000 and your mortgage is $4,000, doesn't it make sense to just pay the damn $4,000 and keep it moving? It's ridiculous. And then you still get the cut. You still get to keep 6,000. Instead, you're giving a whole 10 to some ipso Morris subject who's now arrested and is now asking for Cash App donations because he can't get himself out. Well, how in the world was he getting everybody else out? Come on, man. It's a trick bag. And I knew it was a trick bag the whole time. I knew it was a trick bag the whole time. Why you can't get your own people out of jail? He's got all types of videos and stuff with him going to Charles County courthouses and all this stuff, getting people out. Okay, great. Wonderful. How about you? Why don't you get yourself out? No, instead you asking for Cash App donations. Why are you asking for Cash App donations? Oh, is it possibly because you plan on posting bond? Which if you do that, that means that you got to accept the jurisdiction.
Wow.
You must accept your name. What is it? Lamont Maurice Robinson or something like that?
Butler.
Yeah, Butler, yeah.
So now you gotta go on the name Lamont Maurice Butler in order to get out. But you're telling everybody else, oh, you got to reject the jurisdiction. You got to stand your square. Well, why don't you reject the jurisdiction and stand your square, Mr. Consul General?
Where's the habeas corpus?
Right, which it doesn't even necessarily work because the habeas corpus is still for states. It's for states, state officials and nationals. Ipso Morris subjects don't have, they don't have rights other than civil rights.
That's right.
And they're better off standing there. If you're a Morris subject, you're better off standing your square as a United States citizen. I mean, after all, you're telling them to enforce the Constitution. Well, guess what they're doing? Enforcing the Constitution. On you, Mr. Morris subject. You telling them to do something that they're already doing. Enforce the Constitution, enforce the Constitution. Okay, we will, we shall, And we have.
Hmm.
So come on in here, get your 3 square meals. And if you get tired of it, pay your bond, accept your public defender, come back for trial. Right? This, the cares of the world. Because you're a citizen, a naturalized citizen under the Naturalization Act, which is why the Sultan said any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country must choose between the entire submission of the empire.
Hmm.
The thing is that same extradition document that we just went over to explain to us what a moral subject is, he went over that document on, but guess what he stopped short of? Didn't go through the entire document. He stopped short on Hoffman Phillips reaffirming Article 15 of the Act of Algeciras. He didn't go over that part. Right? It's ridiculous. It's egregious what's going on with these Moors. But slowly but surely they're being exposed. And at the end of the day, once we force the United States on their knees, right, we're going to enact legislation to deal with the sellout Moors. We will adjudicate them.
Hmm.
Yes.
We're going to deal with them before we even deal with the colonists.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Don't get me wrong, we will deal with the colonists. But we'll be dealing with our own first, because it was our own first who put us in this trick bag. So imagine Farrakhan being picked up by the authorities and being arrested for crimes against humanity and genocide because you were complicit in that charge. The simple fact that we were kept from this information is genocide. It is a crime. It is a crime against humanity. It was because it was based in denationalization. And if you were a part of it, you're complicit. What do they call it? What's the other term? When you're part of a crime.
Accessory.
Accessory to the crime. So we can enact legislation to have the United States pick them up and lock them up in prison. And you can best believe they'll gladly do so. And they will take us serious because they're going to say to themselves, wow, if they're willing to adjudicate their own, obviously it will be through the due process of law, right? If they're willing to adjudicate their own, imagine what they would do to us. Yes, you'll be next. But first, let's deal with these Negroes, fez-wearing Negroes and non-fez-wearing Negroes. Also, we will have the FBI release the names of the list of names of all the sellouts.
Now,
over this
is that
period of time.
going to be done state by state? I guess it will have to be, huh?
It's going to be done federally. It'll be done federally because it's a federal matter. The FBI don't deal with state by state. The FBI is a federal agency.
No. What I meant is AMPAG wants that list. And Maru wants that list, etc. That's what I meant.
I know that's what you meant, but what I'm telling you is that it'll be done federally. So we all would have that list.
All
Even
right.
Even a state in Missouri will know who the damn sellout Moors in Missouri are.
All right.
You want to know all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that comes after the ICJ. We have to first deal with the United States corporation. We got to bring them to their knees to then now force them under the jurisdiction of Moroccan law and Mohammedan laws. And now enact the legislation to have them release those names and also enact the legislation to have them all locked up. Throw away the key. Life sentences. It's better than beheading you because it's actually treason.
Mm.
So you just get life sentences. And not like in what do you call that? In private or no special prison. No, you're gonna be in population with everybody else, with all the gangsters and all the rapists and all the criminals. You'll be right next to them, or they're gonna get dealt with. They better get ready. We're coming. We're coming for our own. Who are our own? Our own that sold us out. Elijah Muhammad, lucky he dead, because we'll be going after his ass too. Excuse my language.
Mm.
All of them. Fard Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad, all of them. Huey P. Newton, he's an agent. In case y'all didn't know that.
I thought he passed away.
I believe he did.
Yeah, he did.
Newton and Bobby
1980 to
Seale, they were
1988.
agents. The Black Panther Party was a counterintelligence operation established by J. Edgar Hoover in an attempt to stop the rise of the Black Messiah.
See, they always make it look like they're helping while they're tearing you down.
That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
They established the Black Panther Party was an FBI operation. It doesn't mean that all the members were agents. Those who started it were agents. Those being Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale. Now everyone else, Fred Hampton, etc., they may not have been agents. They just got caught up in the movement.
Yeah, Eldridge Cleaver. Yeah.
Right, Mutulu Shakur, Mumia Abu Jamal, etc. And guess what?
And as soon as they use you as an agent, they throw you away.
And guess what? They were dealing with the Smith Act. That's why they ended up with 40 years in prison because of the guns. Anti-terrorism. It was terrorism that was going on with the Black Panther. Look what they call themselves, Black Panthers.
Yeah. Black, yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of agents, man. There's a lot of these groups were agent groups. There's too many agents that has kept us away from these documents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Starting with the Resolution 1514 of 1960, a decolonization document that while that was taking place in Africa and everywhere else internationally, here in Morocco, the Moroccans were running around, marching and praying, integrating themselves.
Yep.
The other key. That's why Martin Luther King said what he said.
In the burning house. Yeah.
Into a burning house.
Right.
And he regretted it. Which, okay, fair enough, you course corrected, but at that point it was too late now.
So was Khalid Muhammad, he was on the Moorish movement at one point, before he was compromised.
Who was that?
Khalid Muhammad.
Khalid Muhammad, I don't think he was compromised. He was just assassinated because he wasn't compromised. That's why they assassinated him.
As soon as he said he was a Moor, as soon as he came out publicly and said he was a Moor, that was it. I'm
a Moor. And I got sense enough to know I'm a Moor.
And he wasn't around much after that. Yep.
He wasn't much. He wasn't around. He sure as hell wasn't. They got rid of him.
Yep.
Who was on the balcony next to Martin Luther King when Martin Luther King got assassinated?
Messy Jesse.
Mr. Push Coalition with the rainbow. I wonder what that means in hindsight, right? The rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of clandestine activity was he involved in with the rainbow? Do you know what the rainbow represents today?
Mm-hmm.
Sellouts, man. Martin Luther King's children.
Good time.
Everybody, man, all these people were sellouts. They were paid to march us around and lead us into a burning house. Period. And so that's why we have to hold them accountable. We have to. There's no way around it. We have to, and we Moors know that we need to. We know that we got to put the scimitar to them. But in today's age, the scimitar is the pen. Obviously we ain't gonna behead anyone, but we can definitely call for death penalty if we wanted to, because again,
Not yet, anyway.
everything within the United States belong to us. That means that their prisons belong to us. everything, everything, everything within the municipal corporation of the United States belong to Moors. Why? Because they owe a debt that's not payable. They cannot pay that debt back. So therefore, the entire corporation is in default, which will be facing foreclosure, which means then we take control of it all, so that we can salvage it all by selling it all off and recovering the finance that's owed. So all their fighter jets can be sold or kept. All their assets, everything can either be sold or kept. Obviously, we will probably keep it. My son needs a plane. I want to teach him how to fly. Right? This is how it is. This is what it is. This is what's going on. This is what the Act of Algeciras is all about. The Act of Algeciras is a decolonization document. But the only people that can make the proper claim are Moors, Moroccans, not Pan-Africans, African. This is why I was saying that throughout the whole read. Not Africans, not Pan-Africans, not African Americans, not Moorish Americans, not MERS, M-U-U-R. No variation of such. Not no Kemets, Comedians, not no Hebrew Israelites, not no Olmecs, not no Cherokees, not no Seminoles, not no Indians, not no Aboriginals, not no any of that. Moors, through their Moroccan governments or Moorish authorities or Sharifian authorities. Moroccan law, period. We just went over it. It says that Moorish governments are supposed to issue licensing for gun ownership. It didn't say nothing else but Moorish government. It didn't say black people. So that's why it was so important for them to keep us in the mindset of Negro, blacks, and coloreds, and then we came back from Africa. So just in case we came across these documents, we wouldn't be able to identify ourselves by the terminology that's being used in the documents, i.e. Moorish anything. What are these people? What is this Moorish thing?
Yep,
Because
and it worked. It worked too.
Mm-hmm. It worked because not only did we not even come in contact with the documents, but as Negroes, blacks, and coloreds, you're a subjugated people. Your true identity is that of a Moroccan. Moroccan Moor. Not an American Moor. That's nonsensical. There is no such thing as an American Moor. Some Moors, I have a problem with the ish, so I'm not going to be a Moorish American. So instead, I'm going to have on my ID, American Moor. Yeah, okay. You're still a Moroccan, still a Moorish subject.
Yeah.
American Moor. Get out of here, brother. There's no such thing as an American Moor. What does exist, however, is a Moroccan Moor, because this is Morocco, not America. America is a misnomer, just the same way Negro, blacks, and colors is a misnomer. So you got a misnomer for the people, and you got a misnomer for the land. But what is the proper terminology? What is the proper identifier? Morocco for the land and Moroccan for the people, period. When Plymouth Rock landed on us, they came into Morocco. They didn't come into America, they came into Morocco. And we already had a Moroccan government with a constitution and the whole nine. So the whole thing about John Hanson and the 8 prior black presidents before George Washington, those weren't our people. Those were the foreign Negro Moors working with the colonists.
The Europeans, yeah.
Those were the European Moors. Those were your British Moors and your Portuguese Moors and your French Moors. And the name is John Hanson. It's not John Hanson Bay. Moors they love attaching Bay to everybody's name that's supposed to be somebody. the name was Marcus Garvey. Marcus Mosiah Garvey, not Marcus Garvey Bay. I don't know what the hell Moors. What the hell was wrong with Moors, man?
They were calling him Bembe.
Well, that's that's Benjamin Banneker. I'm talking about
Banneker, yeah.
Oh,
John
Banneker.
Hanson. They would
Yeah,
say
John Hanson. Right.
they would say John Hanson Bay. Like, no, his name is John Hanson. They would say Marcus Garvey Bay. No, his name was Marcus Garvey.
Mm-hmm.
They love throwing Bay in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Same with Ben Bay, Muali, and all this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You know, they claim that it comes out of the Shriners Club, but if it came out of the Shriners Club, then it's de facto. Because the Shriners are de facto. They're pretending to be us. Which, by the way, we need to correspond with them as well and let them know that they can no longer wear the fez.
That's great. I love that.
The fez will be outlawed across Morocco for those who are not Moroccan nationals. So if you're a Moroccan subject, you better wear your ball cap. If you want to wear the fez, you better choose between entire submission. So the NBCs and the NAPCAs and Moorish Americans, y'all better take them fezzes and turbans off. Same as the secret society Moors with their little written fezzes, with all the stuff written on it with the scimitar above the sister, the Sphinx. You know, that's the Shriners symbolism.
Didn't even what's her name? Washita, the Washita. Even she had one of those fezzes with the scimitar on it.
Yeah, she had one of the writings and stuff on it.
Yeah.
She wasn't even aware in '92 when they had the convention. I had two of my good brother Moors that's been in the movement long before there was any internet. You know, they're like old Moors. They went down there for that convention. The Clock of Destiny was in there, basically usurping the whole movement. But she didn't know about Noble Jew Ali. She didn't even know nothing about Moor.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
she didn't. Empress Veradici, I can't remember her name or how to pronounce it, but she didn't even know about the Moor. Those brothers had to put on game as to who Noble Jew Ali is and who the Moors are.
Mm-hmm.
But the Clock of Destiny was in there, you know what I mean, usurping the whole movement.
Yeah, one thing about Colin, he would put an emphasis on just saying Moor, not Moorish American. You know.
Right. Well, a lot of the let's go back to the screen real quick. Let me show y'all the misconcept with the ish. Let's talk about the real quick before we close out. We need to close out in a second here. Let's look at the misconcept with the whole thing about ish. So let's look up ish. What does ish mean? Because, you know, I'm not an ish. Ish is like, you know, okay, well, let's talk about it.
To some extent.
Right, to some extent, right? But that's just that, okay, but I'm not finished. Let's go to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Okay, so what definition number 1 tells you?
Of relating to or being.
Continue. Chiefly
Adjectives indicating nationality or ethnic group.
Okay. I.e. Polish, i.e. British. So how come the people from Poland can be ish and the people from Great Britain can be ish, but we can't be ish? I'm gonna tell you why they say that we cannot be ish or why they have a problem with ish. Because of definition number 2. Characteristic of. 2b, inclined or liable to. 3, having a touch or trace of. Right? Having the approximate age of 40-ish, 20-ish. Right? Bookish, inclined or liable to. Bookish, qualmish, characteristic of. Boyish. Right? But what does the number 1 definition say? Of or relating to nationality or ethnic groups. So that blows it out the water. So it's okay for you to say Moorish because the ish part of it relates to it indicates your nationality or your ethnic group, just like the British would, or the Polish, or Spanish, etc. So let's get away from the whole ish thing, and let's just focus on what really is what. A lot of that stuff is just misconcept and misinformation and semantics. That
And,
doesn't.
it's also the argument of distraction, similar to whether the world is flat or round.
Mhm.
Exactly. Islam.
That's exactly so. All right. Well, with that said, this was an excellent discussion and also an argument, not argument, dissertation, deliberation, interesting and awesome comments and questions. So we'll close it out at this point. It's getting late. It's past 11 o'clock. People got to get up for their jobs tomorrow morning. Unfortunately, but soon enough that will end once we establish economic liberty without any inequality. And we're just merely looking at no longer than 2 years before this whole thing is over with. And not even 2 years, that's just extending the time longer. I'd say a year before this thing is over with and everything is established, because actually 90 days after the ICJ, all this stuff gets it's a reform, right? Just the same way the Act of Algeciras talks about a reform in Morocco for the security and prosperity of Morocco. Well, we need another reform. What is the reform? The reorganization of the entire system that places the Moroccans in the seat of power versus the other way around. There's a homeless problem here in Atlanta, and most of the homeless people are Moroccan subjects who have no idea that the building that they sleeping next to owe him taxes. This is egregious and it's painful. Like they're sleeping in these alleys next to buildings that that those same buildings, skyscrapers and such, owe them taxes. It's ugly. And that's all across Morocco, not just in our jurisdiction of Atlanta. And so that's what we're here for. We're the 144,000 with the eyes to see and the ears to hear. We are the Moors that's coming in with their eyes wide open. But our eyes wide open is going to put the old Moors in the back. Who are the old Moors in the back? The VHS Moors. Who are the VHS Moors? Taj Tariq Bey, Hakeem Bey, C. Freeman L. Asir the Ducateers. All of them. Because all that information is outdated and it does nothing. It has done nothing for us in these past, I don't know 40 years.
Wow, we was just discussing that this morning. Completely outdated.
Go ahead, brother.
It gives them revenue, though. That's what it does. It gives them revenue.
It does give them revenue, and it gives them popularity and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Hakeem Bey with the Moorish paradigm, that was an excellent dissertation. You know, C. Freeman L. obviously has some excellent information to provide to us, but the information that's being provided is nothing that has to do with the reclamation of the estate. It's just high sciences and spiritual sciences, and Circle 7, what the Circle 7 means, and the four cardinal points and these different higher sciences. Okay, that's wonderful, but let's talk about the Treaty of Madrid and the Act of Algeciras. Let's talk about that. I'd rather talk about that. We'll talk about sciences and all that beautiful stuff later. Let's force decolonization first.
Yeah, because that's not freeing us. That's right.
That's not a new awakening. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's force decolonization first, shall we? Once we force decolonization and we take control of our state, then we can start talking about the zodiac and we talk about all the high sciences. Because at the end of the day, you can't even operate the government without the zodiac. The zodiac is the foundation, it's embedded in the operation of government. Period. Islam. So
Islam.
Peace and love, everyone. May the blessings of Allah be upon you. And for those who are listening, I forget to do this, but I think this is important. I think that gave away some good value here with this information. So if you feel that we did, we need to share this information. So share this video. Let's share this information so that Moors across Morocco can gain access to this information, learn about this information, and start working towards enacting their their state governments, so that we can make moves towards establishing the Moroccan Empire once again, so that we can force decolonization. Islam,
Islam.
peace, love, and light to everyone, and may the blessings of Allah be upon you. May you all have a wonderful night. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.